Mateys, good evening. My name is Kris. You know me as the Dirty Pirate, and I am your host. Losing my voice. What a good start. It is a Bergkamp Wonderland. We are live 22 minutes late. You know, you've got to wait for these things. We're like a fine fart. We get better over a period of time, and the later it comes out, the nicer it smells. So that's how we're going to do things. Good evening to all of you lovely ladies and gentlemen that are joining us on the various platforms: YouTube, Twitch, MySpace, Face Party, Google, all of those things. All
Actually,
of those.
Kris,
So
I have set up. We have our own MySpace.
you're a very sad man, Danny. Let's introduce you first.
Jesus Christ,
you have
is
to
this 2005?
No, but it's back, and so we are actually officially on MySpace.
Well, you're a very sad man, and you clearly have nothing better to do with your time, which is why you're here tonight.
And you can
Danny.
check out our B.
Sad times.
Are you doing well, Daniel? As in Danny, sorry. I've got to be Daniel and Danny tonight. Danny, are you doing well?
Well, yeah, I'm doing better than the offspring, who's stuck in Nottingham because everyone in Nottingham has the plague, and her flatmate has the plague, and so she's been grounded for 2 weeks, and so she's not back for my birthday on Saturday. So I might as well just give up having birthdays. So I've told her, Christmas from the 14th of December, child, you are not leaving your room. You're staying in there just to make sure that you're not ill for baby Jesus' birthday, because he will not be happy.
You are
locking
her
all
away.
right. What?
Good. You're locking her away. That's
Yes, where she belongs. Dirty strumpet.
Needs must. Right, let's get to the main event. Back in, it feels like forever ago. It wasn't actually that long ago. Last show broadcast in 2017. Two fine gentlemen, and Daniel and James also, were a part of a podcast called Goonersphere. Some of you, I'm pretty sure most of you watching this now will remember them. If you don't, well, you missed out. I mean, you did miss out. Danny's still got the archives. If you pay us enough and you subscribe to our channel, we might send them to you. We might not. Depends how we feel. But for those of you who didn't listen at the time, yeah, you definitely missed out. And for those of you that did, you will know the two fine gentlemen sat in front of me. So first of all, in the top right is Mr. James Ralph Stokes. Stokes, how are you doing?
I'm all good.
Good. You're now a family man. You've got a little one. You've got marriage. You've got. I'm pretty sure. Midlife crisis a bit early. Have you got a train set in the attic yet?
My little boy's got a train set, which I'm not going to lie is more my train set than his train set.
I thought so. When you said
replete with sound effects. I like to align the little man so that like they're attending to the tracks.
Yeah.
All kinds.
Good.
Kris, I got a question for you before you move on. How do you feel? Because technically now you're not the one with the authentic pirate accent. I am.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, you're right. Actually, I do feel a little bit like I'm a budget pirate tonight.
Because I'm authentic Bristolian pirate.
You are. Have you tipped any statues into any canals recently?
I wasn't around when that happened, nor would have I partook in. Although maybe I would have, just for the fun of it.
See, when I saw it happen, I immediately thought, I bet I know the man behind that, and I was very disappointed to find out it wasn't you.
No, I mean, I didn't. To be honest, I didn't even know the statue was that racist. I mean, that's the amount of attention I pay to statues in Bristol. But you know, if you're going to put up statues of racists, then they're going to get thrown in the lake, aren't they?
Very, very true. Yeah, very true.
The lake. Where is there a lake in Bristol?
Where is there a lake?
Lake, river.
Sea. It's all water.
It's a collection of water. Call it what you will.
Canal. And down in the bottom left-hand corner, he was the co-host along with James, and he's been a very busy boy himself. He's been doing all sorts of things, and he's very high up in the world these days. I shall say no more. Here's Mr. Daniel Cohen. How are you doing, Daniel?
He's not global, though.
Not yet.
No, that's true. There's a shout out to #DanBets, because that man is truly global. I'm doing good. I'm doing really good, Kris. Life is good. Good. And so yes, I was going to say you're a family man as well. Two little boys. What can I think of that might be midlife crisis for you? Have you bought a sports car yet? No, I can't afford a sports car. I'd like a bigger car to fit the kids in, but no, unfortunately not. I've recently signed up to a fruit and veg box where they send me wonky veg to save it from going to landfill. I feel like that's kind of rather than midlife crisis, it's middle class crisis.
That's bourgeois.
Yeah, that's full hipster.
That is bougie. It's very bougie. Yeah.
That's David Brent signing autographs in the grocery to the random man, having to tell him who he is. That's what that is right there. So yeah.
I'm not going to take shade thrown from the pirate that's from the middle of Lidl.
Yeah, very true. I can't go to Lidl anymore. Not allowed out. None of us are allowed out, are we? Or are we? I don't know. Nobody knows anymore. Right. Let's go back in time first of all, then, before we talk Arsenal, because apparently that's what we're here to do. And there's been lots going on. But before we do, Goonersphere, Daniel, I'll stick with you first of all. So your last show was in February of 2017. Lots of water's gone under the bridge since then. Things happen in life. We might touch a little bit later on in the show about some of the things that happened with you personally. But as a show itself, have you missed podcasting? How has things been? And what kind of memories do you have of the good old days, if you like? Because it's 3 years. I mean, it goes by quick, doesn't it? Nearly 4 years now.
Yeah, it's nearly 4. It's nearly 4 since our last show. And I mean, that particular show, I think the last one before that was about 6 months. I think the last time we were doing it regularly was about 2015. So it's been a while since we've done it with any kind of regularity. For the first sort of couple of years after we stopped, no, I didn't miss it at all for reasons we might touch on. I've missed it recently. I think when Arteta became the manager, I think that sort of re-sparked my love for Arsenal. I actually felt good watching Arsenal again. Not just in terms of the way we played, but just the way they made me feel. I mean, we've played some bad games and we've had some terrible losses, but I've still felt connected to the club. And I kind of feel like a lot of people will understand me when I say that for a number of years towards the end of Wenger's time, and also especially throughout Emery's entire time, that connection with the club it didn't feel as cohesive as it once did. Didn't feel as instinctive. For me, I've missed it recently. Missed the camaraderie, and I think what I really enjoyed more than anything wasn't actually the podcasting itself. It was the hours of silliness that James and I would spend together, coming up with all of our sketch ideas and stupid things. We would write a whole sketch, but then we would spend a couple of hours talking about where to put a specific sound effect for the greatest sort of hilarity. And I think it's the process I miss more than anything, because it was all about creating something that other people would enjoy. The actual podcast itself, we'd be on for an hour and a half, but people would be talking about it months, years later, and they would say, "Oh, I remember when you did that thing. I remember when you did that Batman sketch. I remember, when you did the Justice Lawyers sketch," and all those kinds of things. And that means a lot. That's what I miss.
Yeah, good times, and like you say, it's the little things that you miss when you're sort of off for a while. I had a brief hiatus just a bit from being busy, and it's just the trivial things you miss. What about you, James? How have you sort of found it? I mean, you'd have had, if you'd have carried on through the Emery era, you would have had sketches. You would have had thousands of sketches you could have done with him. Missed opportunity, but. Did you, like a lot of us, did you have that kind of period where you almost fell out of love? Not with the club, because it's always in our blood, but just that period where it was hard, wasn't it? It was a hard watch. The Wenger transition to Emery, and then obviously Arteta coming in. Did you sort of suffer that with us all as well?
I think mine started when we got to the point where we felt we couldn't, through the smorgasbord of reasons, we couldn't keep continuing with the podcast. As Daniel's touched upon, it was the camaraderie of all that. That's what you really enjoyed about it. And when Arsene Wenger left and Bruce Rioja came in, it was, I don't know, it's just like a maelstrom of just shit, wasn't it? Yeah. It's just what was once enjoyable, because even under the worst times under Arsene Wenger, at least it was enjoyable. And there were sort of flits here and there under Emery where it was, you think, oh, maybe it's going to be all right, and then it just plunged into shit. And yeah, like you guys touched upon, during those times, I was pretty sort of had enough of it all. It's like being ambivalent. It's not like you don't care. You just at the point where like, we just want something bad to happen so it will change and we can implement something good and then get to some way to go back to the way it was. And yeah, I would say that sort of curtailed my desire to podcast along with other things. But as Daniel was touching upon, what I really missed about the podcast and my favorite things about it were not just the camaraderie, but spending those times coming up with something on the fly, or you do sort of a movie quote that was very sort of set to only a select few people and someone would get it. And if someone got it, even if it was one person out of 100, it was incredibly rewarding. And that's what I missed about it the most.
Yeah. I remember those days where, like, when I came on board with you guys as well, and we would sort of spend like a good half an hour before a show going, okay, so we've got this one, we would need to get that one in, let's work this one in, and just hearing like people come back and say, oh yeah, I remember that, or I remember this player, or I remember that sketch, or whatever. Like you say, it does kind of ring some bells. Danny, you are the resident bookkeeper of ABW, as well as producer, owner, general fuckwit. What is your memories? Because you've got your famous list of all the Arsenal podcasts nowadays. I mean, you know, there's people out there previewing previews of previews. I mean, it's that busy. But Goonersphere was like, you know, one of the old school, wasn't it? You know, there's us, Blog, Goonersphere. I'm sure there was another one, but there wasn't many of us back in the original days, was there? And certainly not the way that the lads produced their show and the comedic value of it. They were ahead of the game.
I always felt lazy. We just turn up, record it on Skype, bish, bash, bosh, done. Like now when I say I do the editing, all I do is stick a bit on the beginning, stick a bit on the end, and I'm done. But this lot, they would go hours of building it all up. And that Justice for Gimli's Penis sketch was one of the funniest ones they did.
I've got to say, the editing has got to be credited to Daniel, because I'm terrible at stuff like that.
Just everything you did. It was more like a comedy sketch show than just an Arsenal podcast, and that's why I was so sad when you lot decided to go your separate ways, because like so many of them do. But looking back at my list, if you go to a bergkampwonderland.co.uk and you have a look at Arsenal podcasts, my list is up to about the letter T for the, because all of I don't do, like the Goonersphere wouldn't be under G, it'd be under T, and so many of them that started around when we did. There were some that started in 2010. Most of them have gone now. There's only a few of them left, but the Goonersphere would be in my top 3 Arsenal podcasts of all time, well, along with probably Arseblog, which I don't always listen to as much as I should do because he's brilliant. Just his mate gets
him all the time. It's the only one I still listen to.
Thanks for that. Now that you're on here, so. It's just his mate gets on my nerves. But I listen to some real. I mean, you can listen to something like the stuff that Tom puts out at the moment. Really, I mean, that's how everything I know about Partey has come from Tom and his podcast, the Same Old Arsenal. And then you got Sophie and Amanda and Kevin Campbell doing their one. And I'm
going to see if I can get us an invite on that podcast so we can go and tear it up a bit.
Which one's that?
The Amanda's podcast, if she's listening.
Didn't we do that once? Didn't we once go on? We did a tour.
Yeah, he did.
We did a tour of podcasts over a period of time, and we went on everyone else's podcast and just utterly ruined it.
I went on their podcast and just rattled on about fucking Battenberg or something for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if you guys joined Mike and Andy on Gooners in the USA as well? Can you imagine that as a crikey? Danny knows those guys well. That would be quite the cluster of things. But I agree with you.
I've got to say that was actually.
Go for it.
I was going to say the US Gooners from memory were actually some of our biggest fans, and we got most of our listens from across the pond. And I think it was that type of humor, that irreverent humor, the sort
it's my
of
authentic American accent as well.
You sort of, yeah. I'll thrust McDaggett. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was that was definitely. Yes, and I think that what people really liked or they connected with as I think a lot of, especially Arsenal fans in the US of a certain age, maybe grew up on a diet of alternative British comedy, starting with Monty Python, moving into Stuart Lee, ending up with things like, you know, the Mighty Boosh and stuff like that. And I think that they found a kindred spirit in our show. And it was that always, but it always sort of blew me away, because I always thought that our kind of, you know, stupid humor was very limited, and I never thought that it would ever grow to what it grew to. I mean, I think you know, our most ever listened show had about 9,000 listens or something like that. It was 8,000 of them were probably Danny, but you know, we had you know, we had a reasonable following, and I think that it always surprised. James might agree, but it always surprised me that it went further. It sort of, you know, transcended just British humor, and it kind of reached more people around, you know, to the global family, and you know, some of the people who would get, like, you know, 6 o'clock in the morning, you'd wake up and you'd have messages from Gooners who'd been awake since 2 a.m., 3 a.m. over in the States going, "Where's your new podcast?" So yeah, that was always mad.
People still are.
Even now, like, you know, 3-4 years down the line, we still get people messaging, "When's your next one?" It's kind of like, you know, take a hint, guys.
Yeah, well, that's as good a time as any to say this is the part where we tease the listeners, and this is the part where they have to listen all the way to the end, because at the end we might have some news for you. So that is the tease. That means you've got to stick around. You see, that's clever marketing, what I did right there. Either that or you just fast forward, but don't do that. But yeah, I think you're right. Speaking of sketch shows, like, the thing that I always sort of thought of you as, like, for me, was the day-to-day and the sketch shows that those guys were doing. That was what always came across like that kind of era of British humour. So yeah, it was a fun time, and I was happy to be a part of it. But
very brass eye.
And brass eye, yeah. Oh, the classics, yeah. The trunk stuck up the elephant brass. I'll never forget that sketch. Just £5 a week could save Nelly from Anyway, if you haven't watched it,
as just to jump in on brass eye, those of you who remember Cake, with the MP Sir David Amos. So David Amos is my local MP. And through it's quite childish. I'm outing myself now. But whenever we've interacted, I've done my best to get a version of the word cake into the conversation.
As you should, as indeed you absolutely should do. What we are going to do now then is have a little chat about Arsenal. Now, obviously, transfers has you know, been the big thing. Some that have happened and some that haven't. So we'll come on to that in a minute. But let's go all the way back.
Chris, before we start, do you think you and I should have an UR off?
We could do that, actually. Yeah. Were you excited by the prospect of?
Because it gives me the opportunity to delve into the you know, the authentic Bristol dialect when UR goes up the wing.
It's funny, actually. I host a French football podcast, and I'm sure the guys at GFFN Pod were getting sick of Arsenal fans in the mentions. And not just the announcer our sort of hashtag, but the amount of people that were pronouncing it incorrectly. It genuinely got a big issue in France, for people who were genuinely pissed off about it. So it made me think of you, certainly, and our neck of the woods, indeed, for the accents. But
the glorious Bristol country, the glorious West Country.
The glorious West Country, yeah, absolutely. So he didn't arrive.
Yeah, there was that bloke called Jack Carey. 369. We got him on once on podcast number 11 to come on and pretend to be Stokes, because Stokes didn't turn up for one, and we just kept getting him to say Curly Whirly.
Curly Whirly, yeah.
I remember that as well.
Curly Whirly, yeah.
I remember that.
The good
for all his best attempts, he was a poor imitation.
He was, yeah. He never quite got it right, did he? But yes, we did play a game in the interim period, which was against Sheffield United. Danny, were you awake for this? Dare I ask?
I had 6 hours sleep. I was furious. That night I went to bed at 11:30. Yes, I got up early because John wasn't sure whether he could do the show or not. But yeah, Kris and John and Josh did the show. Yeah, and I watched the game, and yeah, it was all right, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, you say that. I mean, the first half was about as entertaining as a used Unai Emery tissue. It wasn't great, but the second half, things perked up. I mean, there literally was nothing to talk about at halftime other than should David Luiz have been sent off for a shirt pull? He should have been. It's ridiculous. And they somehow managed to gloss over the leg breaker on Aubameyang as well in that commentary, but enough said. But it was the substitutions that kind of changed the game, and we saw Pepe come on, we saw Willian move into a different position. Aubameyang went through the middle, and certain Datsun owner's favourite friend Hector Bellerin setting up 2 goals, both with assists, to leave him raging, I'm sure. What did you make of that, Danny? Because the thing that I liked about that was it showed Arteta's tactical flexibility, which is something that we haven't seen like a huge amount of this season because things have largely gone well. But it showed that he was able to change the formation, adjust it, and make decisive changes, which is something he's, substitution's not always been a strong point. So is that how you saw it in terms of how the game changed once he made those changes?
There's quite a few things that I saw that I liked. I was high-fiving myself because when Willian moved into central midfield-ish, I thought, there you go, that's 50 million quid saved. We won't have to go and get that shitbag Partey or Aouar. Did I say that right?
No.
Aouar?
You never say anything right. We know this.
What's the correct pronunciation, Kris?
It's Usam Aouar.
Usam Aouar.
I said Aouar.
No, you say it like a Tesco version. You haven't got enough finesse on it.
Add ya on the end and then chant it. Oh are ya, and there you go.
See, there you go. There is a way of doing it. Anyway, so I saw Willian go through midfield and I thought Pepe's coming on because sooner or later Pepe's got to start doing stuff. And he did. And he was brilliant. And you could almost see the flames coming out of his arse as he ran down that right wing with the afterburners on. I thought, here we go. Ran into the box, still full of the confidence to be able to do the old tricky with the ball, pull it back, take on 6 players. And then it came back out again. And I thought, oh, here we go. It's not going to work. But it was a game that, as soon as Alan Smith said, Arsenal are going to get a clean sheet here, that's really important. He hadn't even finished the sentence and they scored. I thought, oh, Alan, you've bloody jinxed it. But it's really good to see that, like you were saying with Arteta, this is why Arteta is so good. This is why he worries so many. Oh, we've had someone become a new member. I think looking at that logo, I think that's Mike Hertz. I'm just going to go and check. It is Mike Hertz. He has joined our YouTube. The welcome to the Lord Dennis of Bergkamp level. Well, you get a thanks, and I think a Lord Dennis of Bergkamp level. I don't know which one that is. Do you know?
Oh, you do.
Where Kris goes around his house and cooks him a cut-priced meal from Tesco Reductions.
Some sort of bizarre amalgamation of cheap shit.
Microwavable goods.
That's the £2.99 one. That's the first one anyone's ever done of those. I think you meant to get something for that. If anybody can tell me. Because you get the Dirty Pirate Wave, and that is only for a couple of people. So the Dirty Pirate Wave is for J. Rob and Bill Butler. If you two are here, put your hand up, let us know. And the Lord Dennis of Bergkamp, can someone tell me if he's meant to get some kind of special thing? Do we wish him happy birthday, even though it's not his birthday? I can't remember. Anyway, to get back on point, it's that's why teams are scared of Arteta. And that's why Jurgen Klopp is saying good things about Arteta, because people can see that he is the future, his ability to change the tactics. And we've had 20 years of Wenger going, we're winning we're 2-1, and we're going to bring on a defensive midfielder to get that extra goal. And this is the kind of thing we're going to see regularly from Arteta. And even now, been watching football all these years, he is still managing to do stuff and change games in the middle of a game effectively, playing players in the right position, getting the best out of players. And that's why I still do hold out hope for Pepe, that Arteta is going to turn him into the player that Kris says he's going to be, because I don't need you getting the grief, do you? Oh, Kris, Bill Butler's there. He gets a special pirate hello.
Ah.
There you go.
That wasn't anywhere near dirty enough.
Sorry.
Your hands look very clean. You clearly been following the COVID restrictions.
Washing them twice a day. Twice a day? No, twice a minute? I don't know. Twice a day. Yeah, that was just wrong. If you didn't see the audio, the visual version of that, you really missed out.
I'm just looking to see what Mike Hertz gets for his money, and it says you get to take the podcast penalties and free kicks. So if we get any penalties or free kicks during the show, Mike, get your boots on. You're getting involved.
Dead ball specialist. Love that. And he should definitely get a place on the website somewhere as well. We'll have to work out that one as well.
We have 3 levels that you can join at the YouTube. One is 99p, the other one's $1.99, the other one's $2.99, and the other one is $89.99 per month. And
someday somebody will sign up to that, and we will be royally fucked. We'll be like, I don't know what to do.
And Mike and Andy from the Arsenal, the Gooners podcast, which is the one that is as close to the Goonersphere as you're going to find with their kind of take on life. It is brilliant, and they have a £9,999 a month Patreon. If anybody wants it, it's I've got 3. Kris, how many have you got?
7.
7. It's cost him $70,000 a month. Is it worth every penny?
No, it's terrible.
Unlike ours, it is worth every penny. So maybe we should do something special for all the people that that join in, that pay for our YouTube. Maybe we should give them our phone number and we'll ring up and sing them happy birthday once a year.
I'm sure they'll be delighted.
I'm not sure.
Well, you're not going to do it twice a year, are you, Danny?
No, one birthday a year. And you know,
Queen might join. She's a gooner.
Do we really want to risk the possibility of females joining and then John Welsh having their number? I'm not sure that's wise.
No, it's probably best that you don't, for everyone's safety. I'm going to shut up now, Kris.
Okay, good. Daniel, what did you make of the game in particular? Anything that stood out for you? Because, as I say, the main thing for me was those changes, but it was actually quite nice, even at 2-0, where we were, dare I say it, managing a game. And okay, you know, fair play from McGoldrick, was a good finish, maybe not the best defending, but we were managing the game at that point. We were keeping the ball, using it, stretching them, you know, coming back inside. And overall, I thought it was what I would call not a straightforward performance, but it was a disciplined performance. And it was a game that probably last year, well, we did lose to them, didn't we, last year? Lost and drawn. I think it's a game we probably would have drawn last year. So is that your kind of take on the day?
Well, I think it was the sort of game that we probably would have lost every year for the last 10 years. It was a real welcome result because it was Arsenal seeing a game out. It was a game where, like most games recently, we're just not creating a lot of chances. Our most dangerous player was Saka. He was fantastic. Anything that was good was coming from him until Pepe came on, and so he got his goal and he was involved in Saka's goal as well. But the only player who looked dangerous was Saka, and you know, looking at that team, especially that midfield, and you're just worrying, like, you know, we're managing these games now, we're getting through them. But what we're going to do against a team that is almost as good at seeing a game out as we are now under Arteta? You know, we're getting to a point where, you know, potentially we're at risk of losing games sort of on the counter, or, you know, someone stealing a game off us 1-0 because we can defend, but we can't attack. So when Pepe came on, I must admit, there was a little bit of an internal groan because he hasn't frankly lived up to his price tag. That's not his fault. You know, he didn't decide that he was going to cost £72 million. But I think that £72 million demands instant performances.
I hope Stokes
and,
is wearing,
you know, you find it hard to... He's not. He never does. Put them away. No one needs to see those cheese strings. But, you know, I think that we expect instant results. His first year, a bit interrupted season because of COVID and everything like that. But you hope to see flashes of something where you go, that's why we bought that player. And, you know, when Alexis Sanchez came in, he had an almost instant impact. Aubameyang, almost instant impact. Lacazette, instant impact. You know, and whilst Lacazette has tailed off a bit, I think that when you spend big money on a player, you might not expect them to get the goal straight away or the assist, but you expect them to look dangerous. And with Pepe, he just looked very disappointing. Like, he would get into the final third, and it was reminiscent of a couple of other players we've had who do all the right things, get in the box, and then suddenly lose their head. So for him to come on and do what he did was a complete surprise, but a welcome one, because that's the player that everyone saw in France. That's the player that people said, okay, he's worth £72 million. So I think that for him to come to get that goal, it's going to do him the world of confidence. And also, I think having pressure put on him by Saka, who is showing that he is an absolute gem of a player, as well as Willian, who I know some of the number nerds have been ragging on that particular signing, but the guy was in the top 10 creative players in the Premier League last season. He's been a consistent high scorer, high assister, and he came in and he's made a difference as well. And I think having those two players actually putting pressure on him gets the best out of him, which I think is also one of the reasons why I'm so sad that we lost Emi Martinez, because I feel that now Leno has no pressure. I mean, the new guy, Runarsson, I mean, he might be a decent keeper, but he's been brought in specifically to be a number 2. He hasn't been brought in to challenge Leno. He's been brought in to just warm the bench. And we were having a chat, James and I, and the rest of the old podcast crew on our WhatsApp, and we all instantly said the same thing when that goal went in. Is that's a goal that we think Martinez would have saved. Is that whilst Leno's probably a better keeper overall, Martinez commands his box a lot better. And he's much more commanding, in the 6-yard box.
He's very shouty, which is what we want from a goalkeeper.
Shouty.
So I think that whereas Leno potentially doesn't have anyone pushing him to be his best anymore, but then you also hope that Arteta, having said to him, "You're my guy, you're my number one," that might just give him the confidence to stay on top of his game. I think having good players who can come in and justify playing ahead of someone who you spent £72 million on is only going to make Pepe say, I need to up my game if I want to be in this team. And he's got the talent. He now just needs to apply it on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, and I think, like you said, that goal was the epitome of what he did at Lille. It was a counter-attack, It was a move through the lines, it was a cut inside, and it was all at pace, which is exactly what he was doing at Lille because that's how they played. And I think something that a lot of people have missed was we were in a 4-3-3 at that particular point in time, exactly the same formation that he had at Lille. So, yeah, I completely agree on that regard. James, what about yourself? Like, how did you see it? Because it is a classic. It's become, I wouldn't quite say Burnley, but Sheffield United, you kind of put them in that box, don't you? That sort of Burnley, Stoke, West Brommy type box. And to be fair to them, they're better than that. Like, they have got better players. And I don't think they've been found out as such this season, but I just feel like they haven't quite hit the ground running yet. And Wilder is actually a pretty decent manager by all accounts. But it was, like we were saying earlier, it is the sort of game that we've grind out and we've got the win. But there was some impressive periods as well. And you highlight people like Mohamed El Nene playing the role. He was in ahead of Xhaka in this game. People like Gabriel coming back into the side and easily being our best defender. It's kind of positive, isn't it, really, when you look at all of the overall things from the game?
I mean, looking at the game, I can only agree with Daniel's sentiments that the first half was an unrelenting shower of shit. It's just tedious and monotonous hell. But as you touched upon, Sheffield United are not a bad team. They're solid. They're well organised. They're difficult to break down. And you're not going to rip them apart. It's just not going to happen. So from my perspective, there's a lot of positives to be taken out of the second half. And you touched, funnily enough, on the two I was going to mention. First being Gabriel, who I think has got all the potential to be as good as anyone in the league. I mean, he's still young. He's still got a bit to learn. He's still going to be finding his feet in the Premier League, which I assume is a huge adaptation period when you're coming from France. And the other person I've been impressed with since he came back is El Nene. I know he's not to a lot of people's tastes. People see him as just formulaic and run-of-the-mill, and he's nothing flashy. But I've always looked at him on. He's solid. He's dependable. You put him in that midfield, and he's a guaranteed 7 out of 10 performance. He's the one. Whenever I watch him, he's there to facilitate those with the more twinkle toes, those that are going to create. I mean, I think touching on creativity issues, I think our problem with that primarily stems from playing 5 defenders at the back, essentially. When we've only got 2 central midfielders and a triangular pivot at the top of pitch, if you want, it sort of stifles things. We don't have the extra midfielder to help us produce. I actually think there were a lot of people out there who wanted Uarmi Babbers over Thomas Partey. I think Thomas Partey is the much better signing because he gives us something we haven't got. He gives us the ability to go to 4 at the back, and he makes us a lot more solid in midfield. And if we have those things, then we've got the room to sort of enable another attacking player. So to hark back to the game itself and what I thought were the plus points from it, aside from obviously the result, is I looked at it and thought when we played in the second half on the formation that there is enough in our team that we can solve the creativity issues with what we have, with Willian, with Pepe, with Saka. If we're playing them more advanced and free from the structure of being in midfield, I think they'll create a lot.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were going to go into something else then. Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I feel like it's not such a case of making do, but now, and we will talk about Thomas Partey in a second, like you said, that ability of having that player in your midfield now opens up the system a lot more, and it allows us to experiment a bit with that front three and gives us a lot more options to
I don't pretend to know too much about him, Thomas Partey, because I watch La Liga games on Sky here, there, and I've watched him a few times, but he looks like he is top of the part. He looks real quality. I really like him. I think he's going to be great.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's transition then into that, because we did have the transfer deadline day.
I enabled a seamless transition then as well.
Absolutely.
It's almost harking back to glory days.
It's like you've never been away. The particular highlights of transfer deadline day for me was the fact that there was no yellow ties. They were all in their homes, so there wasn't people running around with dildos, or that's the downside. The lady who was reporting from Fulham, that was wonderful. Did you see that? She looks like she had a very plush flat, and she had a dog on the sofa behind her, and at one particular moment he decided to, shall we say, groom himself on the camera, and I think it's when they were talking about Man United, and I thought that's quite apt, isn't it? But
James used to do that when we were podcasting, which is why we never did a live video.
Yeah, I'm fighting the urge now. You can see one hand, the other's a flurry of activity down here.
That's why he's so red.
That's why you can never see Danny's hands anytime, at any point. I mean, it's like T-Rex arms. Look at them. But Danny, I'll ask you first of all. Then the transfer deadline day came and went, and we got our man. The thing I liked about this the most was how utterly shithouse we did Atletico. I had visions of like Simeone smashing the shit out of his office and just throwing people and objects around,
hurling his own excrement around.
Well, that as well, yeah. I can definitely imagine doing that. But we flirted with them all summer. It was very clear that we wanted the player. We were kind of saying, no, we're not playing the release clause. And of course, there probably would have been a part of us hoping that they would reduce their demands. And then in the very last minute, with about half an hour to go, we activated the release clause, dropped the bag of money on the doorstep of La Liga, and took him, and then said, now you can have Lucas Torreira. That's what I enjoyed about it the most. But is he a signing that excites you in terms of what he will potentially bring? I mean, obviously we haven't seen him play yet, but I think it's fair to say his catalogue is pretty decent.
Well, I have seen him play. I went back and had a look at the stats or the details for when we played Atletico Madrid in the Europa League semi-final. Where they knocked us out. He played, I think, one of the games he played right back, the other game he played central midfield. So I have seen him play, but I don't really remember him. So I went and had a look at YouTube and had a look at some of the compilation. And for the gist of it, from what I can get, he loves to stick a leg in like a Vieira would do, break up play, get the ball off you. If you try and barge him off the ball, you're going to get nothing out of that. He's not going to let you. He'll get the ball, he'll sprint off through midfield, pass it to someone else. Occasionally he'll do the long-range shot. When he scored a few goals over the years, he's not known for his assists. He's not really known for his goals. I think last season, or the one before that, he did actually get 5 goals in the season, which is not the norm for him. But the gist of it is he's a player you're not going to mess with. He's gonna stick a leg in, get the ball off you, pass it off to someone else, and then go back in and stand there with his hands by his side, looking like Superman, looking like Batman, standing on the top of that statue, waiting for trouble to kick off. He's going to be there, and so people are saying that we're not going to have to play 3 centre backs. I think we can get away with playing 1 centre back, and we can play 3 or 4 people up front. He looks that domineering, and he just looks like someone who's extremely skillful in what he does, and he reads the game superbly, because every time I saw anything, he was one of the first people to get to the ball, and to be able to realise how that person is going to take the ball and run, to be able to time it, to stick your leg in there without fouling the person and get the ball off them. That takes a lot of skill and ability to read the game, and that's the kind of thing we've been looking out for years. And also the way he gets forward. But I'd had no idea. I do very little reading now that I'm old, fat and bald, and my eyesight's going, and my eyes are weak and my knees are grey.
My nose is knackered.
That's it. But I didn't know that. I know the whole thing that with a contract in La Liga, you have to have a release clause. You have to have an amount in there. Usually it's 2.6 billion or some silly amount. And that's why when a player's wanted, usually they'll give the player a new contract, then they'll include in the new contract a higher release clause. I didn't know that you could go to the Spanish La Liga and say to them, right, Atletico Madrid, they want 50 million release clause. There you go. Like you said, bang the money down on the table. Oh, Atletico, by the way, we've bought your player.
It wouldn't be great if that rule applied when we were going after Suarez.
Yeah, with the pound. Yeah.
And they give a bag with 50 million in and then slide an extra pound. There you go.
Yeah, with a cheeky grin. Yeah, that's how
you have to stick by that. So every player, I hate using the word literally because it very rarely means literally, but you literally go to the Spanish FA and go, there you go, or not the FA, La Liga people. I'm not sure if their league is run by the FA like our one is run by the English FA. But you can quite literally go and do that. It's what?
Yeah,
that comment by Don One.
That is good, actually.
Look at all the wonderful beards, not including Kris, who looks like an English B-Tech Antonio Banderas.
Let's play.
I didn't read that. I know it's going to be there. I'll go and find it in a minute and highlight it. That's good. So you can do that in Spain, Kris. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think
you don't have to let the club know.
No, but I think it's only Spain where you can do it like that. I think with other release clauses, you still have to negotiate with the club. I believe I may be wrong on that. John's the man for all this kind of caper, but
the article that I read, that's exactly what you do.
Yeah, you literally just as Jimmy's put in the chat there, the Spanish FA hold the contracts. It's like a big, like your town hall of records type of thing, and you just pay it, and that's that. So and Atletico Madrid were bitching and complaining and crying about our conduct and stuff, and I kind of get, you don't want to burn bridges for future deals, but at the end of the day, if you put a release clause that is easily meetable, shall we say, in the modern world, you're going to have to expect that a club is potentially going to pay it. That's just life. It's happened to us enough times where players have been taken from under our noses or taken from us but by other clubs. So,
Nick has scored 10 goals for Ghana, takes all the penalties as well. But I think I read a tweet saying that for Ghana, he plays more further forward. But when you've got a player with all that skill and ability, you're not really going to, if he's probably the best player they've got, although he's brilliant at defending and reading the game, you're not really going to waste him sticking back there, are you? You're going to use all of his ability and his skills and all his years of playing at the top level of European football, which he has done, although he's taken a step back down now to a mid-tier Europa League team that's going to, for one season.
This was what I was going to ask Daniel on this one with regards to this signing, because Daniel, there's the way I look at this signing, there's a couple of things that really stand out to me about this. One is that we wanted a player at the start of the summer and we went and got him, and it's been a while since that's come out. And normally, negotiations are kept quiet, but we wanted this guy from day one, and we got our man. The other thing that stands out to me about this signing as well is that a lot of people have kind of gone on about his defensive qualities, and don't get me wrong, this is probably the equivalent of like when Chelsea got Conte. And I think he's probably the best midfielder we've signed since Gilberto Silva. It's that long ago since we've had somebody of that ilk. But he's a lot more than that. He is, like sort of Danny touched on, he has got a creative element, and that might not be scoring 15 a season from midfield, but he's a passer. He's a maestro in midfield. He transitions really well, and he's got that ability to move us between defence and attack, and more importantly, whilst he's not quick and nimble like Kante, and the comparisons, of course, will happen as soon as he makes his debut, he's got what I'd call the Vieira stride. He's got that ability to move at pace without really looking like he's moving at pace. Xhaka and El Nene, God bless them, don't have that, and Ceballos is a completely different player. So is that sort of a bonus for you that we're getting a player who can not only anchor the midfield, but adapt the midfield almost.
Well, I think that there were 2 points that immediately sort of threw up in my mind when you started asking your question. The first one is that, I mean, it's inevitable that any big black midfielder is going to be compared to Patrick Vieira. And someone quite rightly said on Twitter the other day that there's a bit of a sort of, a racist undertone to that sometimes. And I think a lot of people probably don't mean it in that way, but that's their point of reference. And that when you think of midfielders who do what Vieira did, no one ever thinks of, this particular player, from Iceland, or this white Western European guy. They always think of African players, or players of African heritage. And apart from the only player that's ever been compared to Patrick Vieira, who isn't of African heritage, is Javi Martinez. And it is that ability to transition from defense to attack. And so I get what you mean when you say he's got that Vieira stride about him. I think it's a type of play. It's the all-round midfielder. And I think there hadn't really been a midfielder like Patrick Vieira in the league that anyone in really living memory can think of. You had players who were, like Roy Keane, who was very good. He was a defensive midfielder. He was there to break up play, to tackle, to be the shithouse, to be the guy who would break down the other person's attack. And then he would do a short pass to someone else, and then they would progress the ball through midfield. You look at, players around the same time, other midfield players, you had, Paul Scholes, Steven Gerrard, that kind of, people like that who were playing around the same time. They were a little bit further forward, or Frank Lampard, they were a bit further forward. They weren't someone who would pick up the ball on the edge of their own box and carry it to the other box before laying it off to someone else to score. That kind of all-round powerhouse midfielder, someone who has that athleticism, that energy, that dominance. Those sorts of players are very few and far between, which is why they all get compared to each other. And we compare him to Patrick Vieira because that's who we grew up with. But I think in a 10 years' time, people are going to be calling players like Thomas Partey the next Yaya Toure. That's what they'll be calling him, because that's who they grew up with. So I think it's quite normal to that. The other thing was when you were saying about going out and getting a player that we wanted from the beginning. I think that shows a real change in mentality at Arsenal, that we were willing to wait until the end to get what we felt was going to be the best deal for us. And ideally you would have liked to have brought him in sooner. And I think had we known it would have gone to the point where we had to pay the release clause, maybe we would have got him in 4 or 5 weeks sooner. But it's really nice to see us just doing decisive business. Gabriel, decisive business. This is a kid who, he's a great defender already. I'm not going to say he's world class, but he has world class potential. And I think he's the sort of player who in 3-4 years time, that if he was playing for another team, we'd all be screaming, why didn't we sign him when he was 23? Why didn't we do that? And the last point on Partey is, when it was first announced that we were pretty much definitely going to get him, I was thinking, is he really the player that we need? Because he in many ways, he's actually quite similar to what we've already got. He's very similar to Granit Xhaka, but I would probably say he's Granit Xhaka, plus about 10 levels. He's sort of, Granit Xhaka 4.0. He's like a massive upgrade in all areas. But, and I was thinking, is he really what we need? We need someone who's actually going to help us, in those attacking positions through in the middle. We've got fantastic creativity out wide, and Stokes mentioned that earlier, with Willian and Xhaka, and when you put, Aubameyang out on the left, or you have, Pepe, and we do have a real glut of creative players out in those wide positions. But I felt we're really lacking through the middle. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, actually, I'm judging this guy on how he's been playing for Diego Simeone for the last 5-6 years. Of course, he's going to be playing a more defensive game. Of course, you're not going to see all of his attacking brilliance, because that's not how Atletico is set up to play. They're set up to have a very rigid formation and play the ball forward in a very specific type of way and get goals in a very specific type of way. They're not a creative team. They're probably the best in the world at what they do. I mean, Simeone is a shithouse, but he's the Jose Mourinho you don't completely hate, if that makes sense. And I think that when you look at the way his teams play, if you take a player out of that team, you might actually see more of their other elements. So I think what Arteta has seen in him is actually, here's someone who, if I need him to play the way he's played under Simeone, to give us that little bit of defensive solidity in the middle of the park to protect the centre-backs, he can do that. But if I need someone who's going to breeze past 5 or 6 players just through, pure physical dominance, he's the guy that I need. And when you think, and you go back to, those Vieira comparisons, who was our creative midfielder in the middle of the park? I mean, he played with Petit, he played with Gilberto, sometimes he was partnered with Ray Parlour. These aren't players that you would think of as amazing playmakers, but yet we still managed to get goals, and we managed to get a lot of goals, and it was because of the way he carried the ball. So I think we've got a great player. And the last thing I want to say is, on deadline day, the way we treated Atletico to get Thomas Partey, it was a bit like, do you remember when Dominic Brazil was giving Anthony Joshua all the trash talk before he got absolutely smashed the granny out of? It was like that. And I felt like Madrid was sort of like, you think you're the champs because, you've got all this money, you've got your big stadium, you got this, you got that. Yeah, pay the release clause. You're not going to pay the release clause because you're Arsenal, you're tight, you're not going to pay the money. We know you're not going to pay the money. Ha ha, joke's on you bitches. I felt like that's what they were doing. And then he just came in with a massive swing and just completely took them out. And they were floored, looking up like, what the hell has just happened to us? And it felt like I was watching one of those boxing matches where someone has just talked trash and then ended up on their ass. Yeah,
I completely agree with that. And it's nice occasionally to remind everybody that we are a massive club. It's been a long time since we sort of say, actually, we're a big club, and rightly so. It's not an arrogance thing; it's just a fact. Our Spurs. James, what did you make of it all? Because there was a lot of sort of toing and froing, and there was it was kind of weird because there was so much talk about the OR deal, and obviously when that fell apart at the weekend, maybe I'll give our listeners a little bit more information on that a little bit later on, because what's come out is not necessarily the truth. Who'd have thought? But when that kind of fell through, it's almost like Partey kind of came out of nowhere, and Arsenal were actively sort of on the market and were sniffing around. They actually had a deal kind of set up and in place for Boubacar Soumaré, who's playing at Lille. I wasn't brave enough to tweet it because I thought if it went wrong, I'd look a bit silly. So I thought I'd better retire the ITK that day. But that deal was ready to go. And in the end, Mikel Arteta was the one that said, you know what, he's a bit too raw. We haven't seen enough of him. Let's pull the trigger on an established international player who comes with, a great degree of experience. And like Daniel said, has played in a team really that has been, dare I say it, defensive for a number of years. I have a sneaking suspicion he's going to flourish in the Arteta system, because you take the reins off and you've got a thoroughbred there.
Yeah, I mean, to start with your original point of what did I make of the whole proceedings, I'm sure you guys all felt the same. But I think once Uarmi Babbers fell through, that it was just going to be some sort of, hodgepodge, some, belated loan signing and bloody Jorginho, who couldn't have been any more underwhelming. I mean, he's a good player, but he ain't an improvement on what we have. And no. He certainly doesn't have the mobility of Partey. But him and Xhaka in the centre midfield have been like a couple of old codgers on their walking contraptions trying to get up a hill. So I, fleetingly had a look at Sky Sports. Incidentally, don't Sky Sports just make absolutely everything out of fuck all during transfer window day? Like, next, we're going to show you how a milk bottle has moved slightly to the left in the office. So yeah, I looked at it on intermittent basis and fully expected us to sort of not really do anything. So I was very, very pleasantly surprised, because I think I'd said to someone before that if I was picking our Babbers or Partey, I'd pick Partey because, as I said before, we can get what OR would give us with what we have. We don't have anything in our current squad like Partey. So I think it's really a sign of intent. Like you mentioned, the guy at Lille, whose name I've forgotten,
Soumare,
yeah, he looks quite good. And initially, there was a few rumours that we might be going after him. But as you said, a bit raw. What was the second part of the question? I've completely forgotten.
Just the idea that he's been playing in this predominantly defensive side, and I think Arteta is, because immediately people went, oh, Arteta's got his Fernandinho, and even I fell into the trap of thinking, yeah, I can sort of see that from the Man City days. I actually think he's going to deploy Partey a lot more.
As you touched on, more likely to be more Yaya Toure than Fernandinho.
Yeah, running the midfield, not just sitting in front of the back four and moving the ball around. I think he'll have that license like Ceballos does. Yes, you've got to get back. But Arteta sets up in a way that there isn't just defensive players. It's when you lose the ball, you all fucking defend. When you attack, you all attack. And I feel like Partey will give you a number of things. I'm
interested to see who he's going to play with, whether it will be Xhaka, whether it will be Ceballos, or whether it will be a combination of Xhaka, Ceballos and him. I think if he plays with Xhaka, Xhaka will still be the deepest lying player.
Yeah, 100%.
Because he doesn't have the mobility. And I think Arteta wants to play a more attacking system. I think he wants to get away from 5 at the back. He's only been playing it because he's trying to solidify us moving forward till he can implement the changes he wants to. I think when Partey comes in, as I said earlier again, that we'll go to 4 at the back, and we'll maybe just use Xhaka as the pivot, and maybe 2 attack/defense minded midfielders in front of him, the box to box, to use the quote. And those 2, I would assume, will be Partey and probably Ceballos. So it could be El Neni. I think El Neni could, I think he might be the surprise package. I think he might get a lot more game time than we'd initially thought. I wasn't expecting him to be here. I'm sure you guys weren't.
No, not really. Yeah.
I wasn't that bothered that we got rid of Guendouzi because I liked him at the beginning. But he's a bit of a prick, isn't he?
He's definitely got that about him.
He's got incredible potential, but his attitude stinks.
Yeah, exactly.
He gains some humility in Germany and comes back and is the player that he could be. I think if he wants to buy into Arteta's way of playing, he'll be fantastic for us. But if he doesn't, then he'll just have a shit career. He'll be like every other no-mark midfielder, which thought that the grass was going to be greener somewhere else.
I think what's most important about that is Arteta is showing that if you don't agree with the non-negotiables and you're not willing to put in the work, then you're getting the fuck out. And that's exactly what he should do.
And at the same time, opening the door to players to come back in. Like you said, El Nene, a year ago, I think people forgot he was even our player when he was at Besiktas and doing very well over there.
You get the impression he's come back, and he's come back with exactly the right attitude.
Exactly.
He wants to knuckle down, he wants to work, and he wants to help the team.
Yeah, and wants to play for it. Yeah,
and to be perfectly honest, if it were me, I would far rather have El Nene in the team than Guendouzi because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really torn on it because I do. So I really rate Guendouzi, and I do think he is going to be. I do think he is going to have a very good career. But as both of you said there, I think it's the attitude change.
I think he's David Bentley. He's for his own good.
I was going to say he reminds me a little bit of Diarra. Remember, he came in thinking he was going to be, the bee's knees. He was going to be, the top nut of the club, and he didn't get the games that he wanted. So he decided, right, I'm going to go off. And then he got his short move to Madrid and was all like, "Oh, look at me, I'm amazing at Madrid." What's he doing now? Isn't he like, playing for some like pub team or something?
He went to Portsmouth for a bit, didn't he? And then I think he's retired now. Yeah, because I remember when he first signed, and I think. I sort of felt for him at the time because Wenger brought him in and promised him a lot of game time, and he didn't really play, and I think that's why he moved on so quick, but he never gave it a chance.
I tell you what potential I think Guendouzi has. I think he'll take over from Wayne Lineker in Spain.
Well, will he put out on Twitter about what constitutes?
He'll just be unstoppable nonce.
Unstoppable nonce.
In his 50s, chasing after skirt in Ibiza.
I mean, I would.
His football career finished at 24.
maybe not the nonce part, but I wouldn't mind chasing people around at 50 if I looked that good. But yeah, no, I hope Guendouzi proves a lot of people wrong. I hope he does knuckle down in Germany and gets the game time. And I actually hope he's one of the Arteta players who goes out on loan and comes back, because I think there's a lot of potential and a lot of talent there. And worst case scenario, I hope he has a really good season so we get a good fee to move him on if that's what happens. There was one other story. I don't want to go too deep into this one. Yay! But I'll give it to you, Daniel. What did you make of the Ozil Gunnersaurus situation? I do feel like a lot of people have gone off the deep end about this, because the guy Jerry Key, is it the guy who is playing him? Obviously, when somebody loses their job, that's sad. Okay, but this is a guy who's been there for a number of years. I think from people who know. And I'm talking like people like Gav at She-War and people who sort of know the club, have essentially said that he was kind of ready. Like, he loved the job and he was enjoying it, but, he kind of understood what was happening. And the club have essentially said that we're not putting the dinosaur out for good. He'll be back when the fans are back, but Jerry may not be. But I think Jerry did other work in and around the club, and I'm led to believe he'll probably come back in some capacity, just maybe not in Gunnersaurus' suit. And again, depends who you believe. But it was more the Ozil thing. It came at a weird time, and there was the people who, like our Drew said, there was the Ozil haters who all went after him for it, and then there was the people who love him who said it's a great. And I was sort of in the middle. Where did you see that in terms of how he released that statement?
I've still got splinters up my arse from how much I was on the fence on that. I've got to say, firstly, the redundancies around the club have been disgusting. I mean, this is a club which has just dropped £45 million on a player on the last day. We probably spent, well in excess of £100 million this transfer window. We've got a little bit of money in. Times are tough, but it's not like the club couldn't afford to keep ordinary people in their jobs who have mortgages to pay and the rest of it. I mean, this is an uncertain time, with COVID and the pandemic and everything that's going on. People want to know that, they've still got an income, that they can still, pay the mortgage, feed their kids and the rest of it. And you're getting rid of 55 ordinary employees, so I think generally the way the club's behaved around that has been poor. And I think that is epitomized by how the story around Gunnersaurus came out, because if Jerry indeed wanted to take a step back, I mean, the guy's been doing it for 27 years. He might want to, slow down and, spend a bit more time at home with his family. As silly as that sounds, when we've all been stuck indoors, for 6-7 months, he may have come to the decision, I don't actually, want to retire. So if that's the case, just do it quietly. The guy's retired. You put out a statement saying, we're thanking this guy for his retirement. When we're back and we've got fans in the stadium, we're going to get a new person to, step into the claws, as it were, and the rest of it. Fine, do it that way. But the way that they've announced it has been really poor. And then Ozil, obviously, it's so clear that this is PR. This is a PR game, and it's actually not him. It's his PR people. He doesn't run his own Twitter account. They're playing a game against the club. He was done a bit dirty over the pay cut, because he wasn't the only player who refused it. And I think he had legitimate reasons for refusing it, as seen. I mean, take this pay cut so we can keep people in jobs, but we're still going to make 55 people redundant. I think he has been proven right on that. I also think it's a beautiful gesture to say, I'm going to pay to keep someone in a job, but why that particular person? Why not someone else? Why not Doris, the tea lady, if she was someone who was, going to lose her job, or, why not Billy, who, washes the footballs, or, someone who has lost their job, who isn't a well-known figure. Why has he offered to pay for that one? And I think at that point, that's when you realize it is PR. Having said that, I don't blame him. If, he wants to, clearly he wants to play, but he wants to get paid his money. He doesn't feel like, has an opportunity to leave the club, but also kind of feels stuck at the club where he can't play. He's in a difficult situation, and I think he has every right to feel aggrieved. and he is showing sort of how aggrieved he feels and how he feels the club have treated him through his PR statement. So, I think he has every right to do what he's doing. But I think that anyone who thinks that it's pure altruism, they need to wake up. But I also think that anyone who thinks that he's doing it just to get back at the club also needs to wake up, because this is a guy who has a very clear history of charity, a very clear history of giving his time and his money to good causes. Someone who actually does put his money where his mouth is, and he sees injustice. I mean, he was the only player that, to my mind, that I can think of any top club who has called out the way the Chinese government have been treating the Uyghur Muslims. And he is absolutely, I mean, on the other hand, he supports Erdogan, but, so, you've got to take the good with the bad, but, I don't turn this into a Bergkamp politics wonderland and all that. But, clearly he's had a falling out with the club. Yeah. He's had a falling out with the club. Some people are saying the falling out is because he's criticized China, and we don't want to lose our Chinese sponsors and all that. There's always going to be conspiracy theories around those things. No one really knows what's going on. All we really know is right now he's not playing. The reasons why he's not playing, I don't really think matter, because if it's the manager's decision, it's because the manager doesn't rate him. If it's internal politics, well, do you know what? Would he really make a difference to this team? Do any of us actually really want him in this team in the way that Arteta sets up? I don't think many people think that he's the right type of player for the club that we are moving forward. But I think he would, he's got every right to kick off. And I don't think he's done a bad thing, and I don't think he's done a good thing. And I think, if he wants to pay Jerry's wages, yeah, crack on, let him do it. It's good PR for him, and it keeps Jerry in a job if indeed Jerry wants one. So I think anyone who's either way, if you're boiling piss over whether it's a PR stunt or whether he's the greatest and most unselfish person in the history of the world, then get a life. Do
you know what it reminded me of? Do you guys ever see those videos? They pop up on YouTube from time to time, and then customarily, exactly. Customarily, it would be like people in America, and they'll be clean-cut college boys, quite wealthy, and they'll film themselves buying a meal for a homeless person, and they'll film themselves giving it to the homeless person, and they'll film the homeless person's reaction. That's what it reminded me of. It's a really, really nice thing that he's doing, but he's doing it only for his own promotion.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Do either of you see him having any future at this club? Because I mean, the talk is John Cross, the Virgin, God bless him. He tweeted earlier on tonight suggesting that that Ozil was going to be one of the names left out of the European squad. I
think he'll be left out of the Premier League squad as well.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. Yeah, I feel like he's a shoo-in, isn't he? And do you know what really makes me wonder is what goes on. Because he's clearly training. He's clearly going into training. Like, does Mikel Arteta just sort of do that whole thing where he sort of puts his hand up and then goes, all right? Yeah. Does he? Do you know what I mean? Like, do they completely ignore each other? Because to me, I think this goes way, way past football. Because on a footballing ability, worst case scenario, he's on the bench every week because he's a player who can change a game. Sheffield United the other day, prime example. That's the sort of game you throw in.
He is more than talented enough to have something to offer.
Yeah, that's
I think when he came in, when we bought him, I think he was the shot in the arm the club needed. I don't think he was the player we needed at that time. But it was that we'd gone so many years selling all of our best players, and actually to buy a world-class talent from let's not say arguably, from a bigger club, to actually go to, and the season after, getting Alexis Sanchez, it signaled all those promises that were made when we were moving to the new stadium. It's like, we're going to be competing at the top level. We're going to be the people who are buying players off of Bayern and Barca and Real Madrid, and Juve. We're not going to be the people selling them anymore. And it seemed to be a step change in the club. It was saying, look, we are We are a big club. We're not selling anymore. We're financially stable. We can compete with anyone else in terms of wages and in terms of attracting the best talent. And we're going to move forward. People will argue about whether the manager was the right person or not, or whether his past is best. But the point is that we were attracting top quality players for the first time in a long time. We weren't just getting unpolished gems, for 10, 12 million, from France or Germany. We were buying the cream of the crop, players who might not have fit in at their clubs, but they were still recognized as world-class talents. And he was a real shot in the arm. But like other players who have come before him, he never suited the club. He was in the wrong team. If you think of like Arsene, incredible player, incredible creative talent, that little bit of magic, someone who could just turn it on and do something spectacular. But we needed a player who was a team player. And he was a star player, but he was a star player in a team that wasn't set up to have any stars. Go back to, I think of like Danielson, right? Okay, not similar talent, but Danielson had the ability to be an incredible midfielder. But the problem is he was expected to deliver Gilberto level performances in a team full of, I think our average age was 22 at the time. He needed to be in a team full of older players who could nurture him. And we've had that issue over the last 14 years, I would say, since the stadium move. We've had this issue where we've had lots of players who have all the ingredients to be top-class players for Arsenal, or just top-class players in general, but the setup is not there for them. And I think that's what's so refreshing now, and why I don't really. If we lose Ozil on a free, you think someone, you've dropped 42 million quid on a player, you've paid him on average 250 grand a week for 6 years, 7 years almost. You think you've dropped a lot of money on this player. What has he actually achieved for you? A lot of people mark him down as a massive flop. I don't really care anymore, because I think it's time that it doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what name is on the back of your shirt or what you've achieved. If you're not right for Arsenal, we'll ship you out. Or we'll leave you on the bench to rot. And I think that mentality change at Arsenal, the fact that we are now buying players who fit the club and that they fit the way we want to play and the football we want to deliver, rather than doing what, frankly, I loved Arsene Wenger, and, I will always have a special place in my heart for him. But since the stadium move, he tried to build teams around players rather than make players fit his team. It was always, let's build around Henry because we want to keep Henry, and then, oh no, we've sold him, let's build around Fabregas. Let's build around Van Persie, let's build around this player. It was constantly building around a player, and sometimes that wasn't getting the best out of the others around him. So good riddance, farewell, Auf Wiedersehen, have a great career somewhere else, but probably end up at Besiktas or something, Galatasaray, finishing out his days, crack on. We've got Thomas Partey.
With Ozil, the question that's always bothered me about this situation is that he's obviously an incredibly talented footballer. And you'd assume that someone who's got a lot to offer, he's only 31 years old. How many players at that age with that ability would be happy to sit and just take their contract where they know they're not going to play?
Gareth Bale.
Even Gareth Bale's accepted a loan move.
Yeah. And to that,
eventually, though. Eventually. I mean, he did rot on the bench for the best part of a year before he did that.
Yeah, he fell out. I mean, I think even he openly admitted he fell out of love for football, didn't he? Winston Bogarde is the first one I think of with all this. I remember for those of you who don't remember him, he was a Dutch international who played for Chelsea in the sort of peak Abramovich era when he first came in, and he basically just sat on his contract and went, you're going to pay me. You don't want to pick me? No worries. I'll come in. I'll do exactly what you asked me, and then I'll go home.
Do you know what Ozil's situation reminds me of? And, we're all of that age where we'll remember. It's English football in the mid-90s. And it's where top quality foreign players would come over to England to play for a swan song. They'd move over at the age of 31, 32, hoping for a 2-3 year contract on good money, thinking that, all right, well, I'm going to get a cut of the shirt sales and I'm going to get merchandising rights and all of these things, and I'm just going to make a bit of money. Doesn't matter if I can turn it on or not, because I've got my contract. I don't really care if I play, because everyone just thinks I'm brilliant because I'm the name. And it just reminds me of that, and I just feel like Ozil just thinks, why do I need to play? But you've also got to remember that Ozil might only be 31, but he started football early. He's had a long career already. So it's not like a lot of players who maybe don't break into the first team until they're... Yeah, look, I think if you break into the first team when, like, properly break in when you're 24, by the time you're 31, you know, your career's got 3-4 years left in it tops. You're past halfway, and you feel like, okay, I'm kind of really hitting my stride. I'm at the end of my peak. I want to play as much as I can until my legs give up. But if you started playing football regularly at the age of 18, by the time you hit 31, I mean, look at Wayne Rooney. I mean, I know he's breathing chunks every week, but this is a guy who started at the top level at the age of 16. So by the time he hits 33, you know, there are very few players, I think, who start that young and turn it on the whole time. I think you get to the end of your career and you just think, yeah, I'll take what I can get. And I think that Ozil's probably at that level now.
Yeah, Rooney got the winner for Derby in the last minute with a free kick as well this weekend, so he's still got it.
It was a good free kick.
It was, yeah, it really was. Maybe some money as well, but shh. Yeah, James, final thing on the transfer window, just before we go to listeners' questions. I just wanted to ask you whether you've got any small concerns or big concerns about the players we failed to move on. There is still a window open in Russia and Portugal, I think I'm right in saying. So we could sort of shoot Sokratis to Siberia, as Josh said yesterday.
I think we'll loan someone to the Championship before next week as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I was thinking that. I think William Saliba has been... There's been a bit of talk around him about potentially a Brentford link because they want him to get football. But yeah, when you look at the rest of the players, I think he's probably the most handsome player at the club now in Callum Chambers. He looks to me like another player ripe for a loan move, if nothing else, to give him football, just getting back from an injury. So I could sort of see him going on loan at least until January. Is there any concern that you have, though? Because we've got to meet this quota, haven't we, for the number of young players or homegrown players, whatever it is.
Let's think. We've got 19 where we should have 17. It means 2 of them are going to lose out. And I assume Ozil will be one and maybe Sokratis will be the other. I thought it was a bit strange that we didn't manage to shift that anymore. But I think it might have been Arsblog I was listening to, and they mentioned that it's worth remembering that we're only 2 and a bit months away from another window opening, aren't we? So
yeah, 13 weeks, isn't it? Yeah.
I think you look at the likes of Chambers, of Kolasinac, of Sokratis, and then maybe one of the younger guys, maybe a Reece Nelson.
Yeah, Reece Nelson. Yeah.
Someone I could see either Smith Rowe or Reece Nelson going on a loan to, one of the better sides in the Championship. But I think the likes of Kolasinac, it's a shame that we still got them because we don't need them, but I'm not overly concerned. I think if they're going to go, they'll go in January. And it's not. We're only stuck with them for a little bit more. I think it will be a lot easier to. It's difficult to move players on when everyone knows you want to get rid of them, isn't it?
Yeah, and the thing I like about it, picking up on the point you've made there, is I think I'm probably the only person in living history right now to say that I'm actually not that bothered that Kolasinac hasn't moved on, because to me, he is a perfect player to slide in for Europa League games. You look at the sort of side that Europa League group stage. No, when I say no disrespect, that basically means complete disrespect to our opponents. They're all shit. Let's be honest.
Even Dundalk, God bless them. You should just fold up and go out.
Exactly. So for me,
you do realise you just jinxed us to finish second in the group.
Yeah, Dundalk are going to win the Europa League now. I've said that, but yeah, you could put out a back four. You've got the likes of Mari. Cedric, you've got the goalkeeper in Runnison coming in. You can name Kolasinac, you could name Chambers in that side. Then you've got the likes of Smith Rowe and Nelson if he sticks around. If not, you play like Joe Willock is now fringe player. Whoever doesn't get the shirt in terms of Thomas Partey, Xhaka or Ceballos or El Nene, you've got experience to come into that role. Nketiah will start probably most of the Europa League games. I've got a sneaking suspicion that Balogun, now he has stayed, will get game time in that competition, because they do think quite highly of him, and it seems like he's being integrated into first team training now. So, you know, that I'm not against it. If Kolasinac, who I think he basically said he didn't want to go, it was just an option, he was quite happy to stay. Well, if that's the case, and they just played the Europa League games, I mean, you know, I'm all for that. We know Kieran Tierney's got a bit of a history with injuries. You know, I don't think you just get rid of players just because they're, you know, available to be got rid of.
No. And I think something that a lot of people forget about moving on what has been so kindly termed deadwood players over the last 10 or so years is that often when you sign a player to a club the size of Arsenal, they're going to be getting paid a premium of some sort. And we might think that someone on, you know, 80 grand a week is relatively cheap because we know we're paying Ozil 350 to sit on the bench, or, you know, we're paying Aubameyang 250 grand a week to bring the goods. And you think, oh, 80 grand a week's nothing. But 80 grand a week to another club, the sort of club who would look at a player like, say, Sokratis and say, do you know what? He would improve our team. Let's buy him. Finding that 80 grand a week is difficult. And any club who can afford the wages that a top club plays are going to be looking at that player and going, well, if you can't get into their team, how the hell are you going to get into ours? So, you know, what you really need is clubs the level below yours to buy basically the dross that you don't want. But then you also need them to be able to afford the players that you want to, that you've effectively been overpaying for the privilege of wearing your shirt. So, you know, moving on these sorts of players is really not easy, which is why so many of them end up going on freeze.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sokratis is a West Ham transfer.
Yeah. He was linked with PSG. There's a weird one. Like they came in late and said, could we take him on, because they're quite short of centre backs, and I think they saw him as a bit of
don't you remember how amazing Segan was when he moved to Spain? And we're sort of like, where was that player when he was at Arsenal? I think some players are just like really Scalacci.
Yeah.
Like Scalacci, when we bought Scalacci, I remember making the argument at the time that on paper, if you read his CV and said, tell me who that player is, and you like blanked out all the club names and you just talked about appearances, international appearances, those sorts of things, people look at that and go, Sol Campbell, he had that pedigree, but then he came to us and he was absolute crap because some players just don't adapt to the league.
Yeah, because he was brilliant at Sevilla, wasn't he?
Yeah, and Sokratis, when he was at Dortmund, he was a good player, and when we bought him, I thought, cracking, we're buying
I don't know. I agree with you.
No, he hasn't.
I totally agree with you. He was
bad at all.
He was always one of Jason's favourites with Sokratis. Yeah. But yeah, he was never fantastic, but there was very few games that I could have sat there and said, good God, he was awful. You know, he had a few that you just sort of looked at and gone, is he Arsenal quality? But for the job he did, and he's been a model professional. He's carried on training. He's been available. You know, he hasn't kicked off. He hasn't tried to force a move. You know, I don't. And from what I can gather, he's quite a good dressing room character as well. So, you know, I don't think there's any issue with that.
That's one of the other frustrating things about losing Emmy is that we're now losing a squad place for Runarsson, who's not going to play. He's not going to play in the league. He's not going to get minutes. I mean, the only way he will end up playing is if Leno gets an injury.
That's slightly concerning to think about it.
Yeah, it is.
So we've, in my opinion, he could be a great keeper and a nice kid, but we've wasted a non-homegrown player space on someone like Runarsson when we had a top-class keeper in Martinez who was considered homegrown because of when we got him. And that's really frustrating. But I mean, I'm really pleased for Remy. I think he's got a good move, and I think in 2 or 3 years he will be at a top club and he will be considered one of the top keepers in Europe. I think he's absolutely fantastic, and I wish him nothing but the best. But from a purely selfish Arsenal point of view, would have rather have stifled his talent and kept him on the bench for us because A, we keep a top quality player, and B, don't lose a homegrown squad place to someone who's not going to get games. So I think if I'm going to have one criticism of the transfer market, it's going to be that It's going to be that we've gone out and we've got a keeper who is wasting a space when we had a keeper who was frankly a far, far better player.
Yeah. I think with Martinez, it was pure. Well, it was two things. One, it was money, and we clearly needed that to get the Partey deal done.
Yeah, definitely.
And two, it was the players' wishes. And a very interesting quote came out from him yesterday while he's on international duty, where he was, quote, he was 95% told he would play at Fulham, and he turned around and said, "Why not 100%?" And I think, of all people with Mikel Arteta, that's probably the last thing you want to say to him. And don't get it wrong, fair play to him to have the balls and the backing of himself to say it. But I think as soon as that happened, that was probably a decision made. I think we've covered that very well. Danny, we have some listener questions. In the new look ABW, we go through these at breakneck speed, so we're going to be short and sweet with the answers to these. But quick fire round, listener questions, and just while you get them up, Danny, I will just do a little bit of plugging. Thank you to those who are watching us live on YouTube or indeed Twitch. Twitch is the way, the truth, the means, the light, the wonder. It's great. So if you don't already use Twitch, get on there. It's good fun. You can watch people play games and stuff. It's all good fun. But we are live on Twitch, and as the old boy himself would have said, tappy. If you do like what we do, what we provide, what we show you every week, please give us a little like down the bottom. And I'm going to put something on it this week. Yes, I am. If we get 100 likes, 100 thumbs up, I will bully Danny into putting Mike Hertz as the very first honorary member on our website. And that means anybody that signs up for a membership will go on our website. There you go. I've just made an executive decision. So if you want your name on the ABW website for life, Mike's will be going up first if we get 100 likes. So basically, if we don't get 100 likes and Mike doesn't go up there, Mike, go to town, mate. This lot are letting you down. It's on them, not on us. I'm just moving the goalpost there.
Well, just in case we don't get 100 likes, just that Mike has a new Arsenal podcast called Not Another Arsenal Podcast. There's him, there's a ginger bloke. Every Arsenal podcast does need a resident ginger bloke. Our one, Josh, has done a sterling job tonight, filling the chat with facts. Unlike me, I've just been sitting here like a fan listening to James. He said Jock then, and it began with a J. Listened to James and Daniel. It reminded me of the old days when I could see my undercarriage but I hadn't used mirrors.
Good stuff. And I do just want to give a...
Is it like one of those mirrors that they check for car bombs?
on a stick.
A man in a hazmat suit.
It's one... When I'm not using it, the hub will use it.
From that. And speaking of other podcasts, I've noticed we've got Hybrid Squad. Sophie's in the house. So, Sophie, God bless to you. Hope you're keeping safe in that mad world you're living in over in the States. Sophie for president. That's what I say.
Hopefully, Amanda has said that she is free on Sunday to do an ABW meets the Highbury squad. So I'm just waiting for Amanda. She forgot to ask Sophie and Kev. That's Kevin Campbell. I refer to him as Kev.
Can't get the staff, can you? Honestly, can't get the staff. You'll be there.
I'll be there. I don't know who else will be there, but
I might be there if it's in the evening.
It'll be a show with those three.
Josh is next in line, I think. But right. Anyway, enough of this waffle. Question, Danny. Who's been asking us shit, and what have they been asking us?
Right,
reloading scum.
1 hour, 27 minutes. We have 16 questions. I will start with Kris. First, actually, I can't give that one to Kris. First one to Daniel from Amanda, who is at GoonerGirl1969 on Twitter. Where the AF have you two
been? Do you want the honest answer, because it's going to bring down the mood?
I'll go first then.
No, we'll save that for another. Been on the run.
Prison due to a case of mistaken identity.
A bit like Prison Break kind of thing.
I mean, I had to tattoo my body, and then everything was a climax every 5 minutes, and then I escaped, and then somebody named Teabag kept chasing me.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what I'm surprised you guys haven't picked up on it yet, but James and I swapped identities in a face-off kind of situation. So I'm actually James. That's actually Daniel. So Yeah.
So there you go. There's the answer.
Kris is actually Jock.
The positive version of what I've been doing is I've had a second kid. We bought our first house, and I started a new job, shall we say? And yeah, it's just kept me very, very busy. So that's where I've been. Been busy.
Well, Daniel has actually got a story, but we couldn't do it justice in the 10 minutes we have of the show left.
Not.
So maybe when we have done a few special podcasts on the situation that he was in, so maybe he might do it.
Actually, if John wanted to do another follow-up, I think that'd be a really good story to tell.
It's an important story to tell as well.
Yeah.
Jason used to do them, but now Jason's AWOL. He's in lockdown, and John's
spoilers,
had his own dealings with.
Yeah, you really are. Yeah, what we're actually saying,
we basically just gave it away.
What we're actually saying, what we're saying, dear listener, is basically James has had his penis removed, and it was stitched on to Daniel. So
it's something we've talked about for years. I mean, you finally got up the courage to do it. Now I can tell Daniel to go fuck himself, and I'm helping him.
Exactly, and that's where Daniel Two Dicks was born. So
and every time James tells me to go and fuck myself, I always tell him, "Do it yourself, you coward."
It's like
Avon Teddington, who is always very reliable when it comes to news, has said Hayland has been closed after a positive test for COVID.
That'll be Mezza. That'll be Agent Mezza. He's deliberately picked it up. I am, of course, allegedly. I'm not actually saying he has before anyone sues me. Agent Mezza has let it free in Colney, and this is his revenge. It's going to be the season of Ozil.
Before we move on, do you think I should actually answer Amanda's question properly?
Yeah, I think you should. Yeah,
I'll do it briefly. We've taken a hiatus from podcasts because I've gotten married, I've moved house, I've had my first child, and up until this point, we haven't really had the time to really put our collective talons into it.
Talons, I like that.
Is that talons or talents?
Talents.
Or as I was saying, Daniel might let you know in the form of some tweets. He might tweet what Daniel's been up to.
I will. But you have to wait until the 6th of December.
There you go. There is a tease. There is a tease.
That's a long time.
Right.
Yeah. Next question.
Shut up.
And Danny, before I forget, please check your WhatsApp. Nothing to do with me.
Yep. Okie dokie. Right. Next question will go to Kris from our very own Carl. He says, if we play with a midfield of two, who do we start? Xhaka and Partey seems too defensive. Does Xhaka get dropped for Ceballos?
I personally would go with Partey and Ceballos long term, because I've always said, and will continue to say, Granit Xhaka has done brilliant things since his redemption, and he's proven that he's a very valuable player for us. But I think Partey's an upgrade, and I love Dani Ceballos. I've got a man crush on him, and I think he's a wonderful footballer. That said, I still think there's plenty of room for Xhaka in this side. When we go to quote unquote the tough games, or when we're back in the Champions League, which obviously inevitably we will be next year. There will be certain games where you need to play a three-man midfield, and you need to bulk the midfield out. And a midfield of Xhaka, Partey, and Ceballos would be quite tasty. I also think Xhaka will get games if indeed we do bring in a creative player, in the likes of our type of role. So I still think there's a future for Granit, but I would love to see Partey and Ceballos personally. Yeah.
Well, I think it was comprehensive.
That's a very good answer.
I try. I think occasionally.
It was very, very good. Here we go. One for you, James, from Mike in our Discord chat, which is a new thing. And unlike all our Discord chats, we don't have wanky mods in there telling you off. You can come in there and do whatever the damn you want. He says, will Partey debut against Shitty? I think he possibly means Man City.
I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. I mean, he's not like a young 20-year-old player who's going to need time to adapt. He's played in La Liga, he's played in big games, he's played at the Bernabeu, he's played at the Nou Camp, he's played in Champions League games. He has the experience. I don't see any reason why he can't, presuming he's fit, slot straight in. So I would say, yeah.
That's a good answer as well.
If I was picking Arteta and I was making the big decisions, I'd pick him.
He won't need too much of a transition, I don't think. It'll be weeks rather than months, that's for sure.
Okay, right. Next question will be for Daniel from Matt L. Roberts on Twitter. How much do you miss Gunnosaurus, and do you think that if the new signing is announced that they might have to wear the suit for the reveal video?
Well, I kind of feel like
I'm just reading these as they come.
We've absolutely missed the boat in the reveal video. I mean, it would have been really great PR if the Gunnosaurus story was a fake one, but it was leaked on purpose, get everyone riled up, and then you do a video saying we brought back Gunnosaurus, and then whips it off and it's Thomas Partey and he shouts Garnosaurus or some shit like that. I think that was suggested on Twitter and made me laugh. That would have been elite shit posting, and it would have gone down in the annals of history. But I've forgotten where the question is. Going back, Gunnosaurus. I don't miss Gunnosaurus because I haven't been to the Emirates in years because it's bloody hard to get a ticket, and now it's impossible to get a ticket because no one's going. So I don't really miss Gunnosaurus at all. But I wish. What did Arsene Wenger used to say? Was it I wish him well?
I wish him well. Yeah,
I didn't see it, but I wish him well.
As do we all. Right, next question. While you're talking about this, Kris, I'm going to turn my camera on and off, so don't shit your pants thinking I've gone, because I haven't. Kris next. Archie from YouTube. Do Arsenal fans need to take a step back blaming Kroenke, as this window has shown they have backed and shown confidence in Arteta this summer?
I think Josh, Drew and myself are all in this boat from memory, from our crew. I'm not saying that John or Rich or Femi or Carl or everybody else aren't in the same boat, but I know that Josh and Drew and I have spoken about this a lot. Are the Kroenkes the best owners for Arsenal Football Club? Probably not. Are they fully invested in the club? Probably not. Have they backed us when we needed it? To a degree. I wouldn't say they've gone above and beyond, because if they'd have gone above and beyond, we would be sat here with Houssem Aouar and Thomas Partey now, because it was clear that we were only, I never say only 10 million, but I genuinely think 6 to 8 we would have got the deal done for Lyon. So there was clearly some mismanagement there in terms of the finances. Their priority is in the US. They are US citizens. They own a lot of US franchises. So, at the risk of making myself very unpopular, if I was in their shoes, I'd probably be doing the same. The money is in that American stadium and in that franchise, and Arsenal probably is second to them. To us, it will always come first because we're the fans and it's on our doorstep, and etc. and so on. But I'm not for a minute sort of defending them, but I do feel like it's a little bit of a lazy argument now, where people just go, they don't spend any fucking money. You can have all the money in the world, or you could just be like Tottenham and pillage it from the government, claiming to be poor, and then spend it on a left back. Imagine, but allegedly. But yeah, I just think it's a bit of a lazy argument, and I feel that the time to worry is when we're not bringing in players and we're selling our top players again. That's when you really need to worry. And at the moment, it seems to have gone the other way. And if we bring in one marquee signing every window, I don't really see that as a bad thing. Transfers is not the be-all and end-all these days. Despite
so as we're in a hurry, is that a yes or a no?
Yes. No, I don't know. Somewhere.
Cannot get the staff. Next question for James is from Shane_B4.DA.$. I think that's meant to say Shane Badass. It doesn't. On Twitter.
That's a very popular last name.
Dreams crushed. Right there. Danny's just crushed the dreams.
$. He says, how many Premier League starts, including subs, will this with Emile Death Row make this season?
What, he wants me to predict?
How many he'll make?
Wait, did you say Death Row?
That's what we call him.
Yeah, Death Row Records.
How many start, including substitute appearances?
Yep.
13.
I think it'll be close to 0, but there you go.
I reckon he'll make 30. I reckon he'll play a few of the what was the Premier League starts?
Yeah.
12 team.
Let me. No, I didn't hear the question. I wasn't paying attention, to be perfectly honest.
That's always good on a podcast. Thank you.
I've been up since 4 this morning, so I'm sort of a little bit languid now. Premier League starts, including substitute appearances, 2.
Oh.
13 in the Europa League is what I was initially trying to say before I fucked it up completely.
Excellent. Yeah, when our football's going to be shut down, that question is irrelevant. Right, next question for Daniel. This is my very own Ellis Smells. He says, who gave me wonderful COVID advice today. He spent 2.5 minutes and wasn't sure what the answer was. Cheers, Ellis. Fuck Ellis. He says, who's Daniel's and... oh, good God, this lined up lovely. Who's Daniel and James's pick of the week? Chris and Danny can join in if you like too. Good God, there we go.
He meant prick of the week, not pick of the week. Get it right, Daniel.
Oh,
it is prick of the week.
Yeah.
As in from your old podcast. Go on. It's been a while.
Go on, I'll let James go first.
Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm not prepared for this. Customarily...
Jesus Christ is not a good pick.
No.
Especially as it's almost his birthday.
You'll get in trouble for that kind of thing these days.
Okay, let me retract that. In no way, shape or form was I calling our Lord and Saviour Jesus Christ a prick. A twat, perhaps, but not a prick. Christ.
No, not Christ. We've established that.
Done that.
I have 0 time. Prick of the week. The guy outside my house who every now and then drives past on his souped up, trumped up roller skate, making a hell of a racket while my little boy's trying to sleep. So that motherfucker, he can be prick of the week.
Wanker.
That's actually Danny, by the way. That's Danny doing that.
Yeah.
I think there's a more obvious candidate here, so I'm going to be disappointed if Daniel doesn't go down this route. But
So,
let's see.
Postman Pat.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, Postman Pat is a prick.
And Stuart Little. Fuck
I'm going to have
Little.
Postman Pat.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to bring the podcast down. I'm gonna have to go political. I'm not gonna go on a long rant. I'm just gonna say Boris Johnson. And for those who aren't using video, I'm gesturing. Just look at what is going on around us. Look at the shit show that this country's being subjected to. With we're in, we're out with COVID restrictions. We don't know what's going on. Rule of 6, rule of 26. Go down the pub. Don't go down the pub, but do go down the pub. Don't go to the cinema. Do go to the cinema. Stay at home, but don't stay at home. Don't use the trains. Do use the trains. Work from home to stop the virus, but you've got to go to the office in order to spend £3 at Costa to save the economy and all this other bullshit. They've got no clue what they're doing, and we're all just
let's be honest, Dan. If Pret a Manger closes down, we're all going to die.
And you're not supposed.
I mean, London's going to go out of business if Pret a Manger closes down. But I mean, come on. I mean, look at just look what's going on with all the test and trace fiasco, billions and billions of public money being handed to people who use fucking Excel spreadsheets in order to track and trace cases. It's absolutely
with a
ridiculous.
Limit of 68,000 lines, so 36,000.
And the thing is, not even the current version of Excel. They're using the Windows 98 version of Excel. I mean, come on, give me 10 billion quid and I'll build you a database from scratch.
And the biggest crime of all of it, is that even the ladies are suffering because they kind of admitted that the eat everybody out on a Wednesday night didn't work.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's
that's a cunning linguist
bringing it back to football.
Why? Thank you.
Bringing it back to football. All of this lack of clarity, lack of coherence around dealing with the COVID situation has put us in a position where potentially we might lose players to games who have to self-isolate because of international duty. We've already seen it with Kieran Tierney. Is that going to affect when we play City? Could it potentially affect Thomas Partey making his debut? And I think that we've got players who are now being forced to isolate despite testing negative because of the unclear and incoherent system that we've got around testing, tracking and tracing. It's ridiculous. So yeah, it's got to be Boris Johnson and those mugs in the government for wasting all the money and not just fucking up the country, but potentially ruining football.
Can I readdress my answer, please?
You may.
Because along Daniel's political lines, I thought of a really good one. My prick of the week is the person who sits on a boat and has the perfect golden opportunity to push Nigel Farage into the sea and doesn't.
That's true. That's true. It wouldn't have happened if Fife was there. Fife would have been right in there.
Just put him in the ocean and drive off, and then you ain't got to deal with that.
Brings a whole new meaning to the phrase "get in the sea," doesn't it? Yeah.
What's your answer, Kris? Come on, get a wiggle on.
Graham Souness and Patrice Evra. If you don't know why, go and watch Sky Sports from last week. Oh, and Jermaine Jenas, because the man is a massive bellend. I don't think I need to say anything else.
No, that's
my prick of the week is the EU, because I voted Brexit. Damn you, people!
I feel like we should move on at that point, really.
You can actually see the disappointment in Daniel's life.
Yeah, I know.
You're driving on the wrong side of the road in your non-speaking English ways and your sausages, you bastards.
Sausages?
Unless, of course, I go there, then...
Don't worry, Danny won't be arriving anytime soon. I wouldn't worry about that.
Right, next question is for Kris. Hold on, everyone. Get comfy. This from Jimmy R, DCU Gooner, or whichever name he's using, whichever platforms. It changes on everyone to confuse me.
Jimmy.
As of this moment, Thomas Partey has yet to tweet about joining Arsenal. How quickly do you want this ungrateful twat out of our club?
Immediately.
I'm so glad that Jimmy made a joke out of that, because I've legit seen people losing their shit over the fact that he's only done like one Instagram post saying thank you for the kind welcome. He's on international duty, you fuckwits. Like, he didn't even get the opportunity to meet with the people who were doing the deal. He hasn't even been given a shirt yet. Jesus H, honestly, like some people
we have go on.
I've just seen we have a new member. I'd rather put my focus into saying welcome to the Believing Gooner
member.
Welcome to the Believing Gooner, who has just signed up the $2.99 pledge, the ABW pledge. That's what we're going to call it. That's what you guys spend this money on. And what does that mean? Because Mike's on free kicks. So can we give the Believing Gooner pence?
They're going to have to split it. They're going to have to go like when Ian Wright joined Arsenal. One of them's going to have to stop.
And one can take corners from one side, the other take corners from the other side.
Oh no! I'm the Believing Gooner has done the I'm a mushroom, and that's hello. I'm a mushroom. Everyone else who is also a mushroom, you must also say hello to him, as in the way of the mushroom. We are the mushrooms.
The way of the mushroom. Oh, we've got a new tier system that Danny basically created.
They've been smoking too much children in need.
Bloody mushroom.
Danny thinks of weird things late at night, I can tell you. So, yeah.
I used to say, if you want to shout a gentleman's nod during the shows, at the beginning of the show, you have to type in the chat box, I'm a mushroom. And so people would put in there, I'm a mushroom, and then I'd read their name out. And so when I was, there you go, like our very own Josh, hello, I'm a mushroom. And then I'd say, hello, Josh.
Good afternoon, Josh ABW.
Is this because you're all fun guys?
We are crazy guys, and also Sweden. My rant at the EU then doesn't include Sweden, because I love Sweden, because me and Kris are Swedish.
There is someone here who keeps saying "get fucked," Danny.
Yeah, that's Michael. He's sweet. It's Michael in Sweden. He's allowed to.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So, what's the next question?
Yes, let's move on.
Oh, Avon's gone and ruined it. He's an omelette. Chris Lodato, I'm a mushroom. See what you've started now asking. Why do people put I'm a mushroom? Right, next question.
Chris Lodato is having a lovely time right now because his Orlando Magic, they're not called Orlando Magics. They're actually called Orlando City FC. But they're having a very good season. They've got Nani, don't you know? They're having a lovely time. So a
relative of the mushroom family is the truffle.
Indeed.
And we've got an interesting story about truffles, haven't we, James?
Yeah, we used to send Jock into the bushes to hunt for them.
Snuffle up against
that's not the story, is it? Ice truffle.
The story is that one of the first things my girlfriend, now wife, did for me was dye my bonds.
Your first date.
Yeah, I suppose not technically, but yeah, it was. And the color of the dye, which was purchased to wash away my aging greys, was iced truffle. Something I have yet to live down to this day.
And you never will. You will never live that down.
In fairness, I probably shouldn't. I mean, I'm a grown-ass man dyeing my hair.
You never catch me dyeing my hair.
Well, no, you're not even a grown-ass man dyeing your hair. You're a grown-ass man having a potential new lover come round to dye your hair for you.
Which was my idea.
Go grey with pride. Just go grey with pride.
As bad as the time we found out that Jock's first date with his wife was Pizza Hut and he made her pay.
He's Scottish, for Christ's sake. What did you expect?
I'm surprised you want 65 bars and iron brew.
I love that angry little man.
He's a wonderful man.
We should because he's going to listen to this, so we should say that he is one of the greatest people in the world, and we love him dearly.
And he's painfully handsome these days.
And if you see that picture that's behind Daniel's head, taken from my wedding day, you can see him leaping gloriously into the air.
Like a wounded horse.
That picture there is from my wedding day. We recreated the scene from Anchorman where they freeze frame and jump in the sky.
See, that's the sort of class that you're missing out on by not podcasting, you see. Gems like that. But yes, hello to Jock. Danny.
Well, when we podcasted 60% of the time, it worked every time.
Are you ready for another question? You finished waffling on like old ladies. Okay, next one. I forgot who had this. Right, it's a double one from K-Man 1867 on YouTube and Gooner Dub on Twitter. K-Man says, this is for Kris. I don't know who I'm starting again at Kris. K-Man says, is asking for Benrahma too greedy? And Gooner Dub says, do you think we could and should go for Brentford for Benrahma in the next week? Could offer Bellerin, in brackets, who they bid for last year, and cash, or even a Saliba on loan.
Yeah. In short, I think he's a very, very gifted player. Kind of a bit of what we've got already, so we'd have to deploy him differently because he's a wide forward rather than a 10. But if we could get the right deal done, i.e., I wouldn't let go of Bellerin. As I said, I think he has got a future. Saliba on loan would make a lot of sense if we need to get him playing time. There's another player in the Championship who led to believe we're having a look at as well. I'll keep my powder dry on that one. But
is it the guy from Norwich?
Yeah, Emi Buendia. So now I'll just spill my guts on that one. Credit to Neil for that one, who filled me in on that yesterday. But yeah, either or. I think I'd probably go with Benrahma more because he's your modern, archetypal, speedy, quick feet, etc., and so on. Whereas Buendia is more of a creator. And I'm not saying we don't need that because we do, but I like the idea of speed and creation, not just creation. But as Jesus once said. But yeah, I would do it if the deal was right for us. And the money was right, obviously.
Well, there you go. That's almost a record for you. Answered the question and got on with it. Next question, I'm going to go down to Daniel from Sai and Vesh on YouTube. What formation were we playing yesterday? I think he means against Sheffield United. Because it did look all over the shop.
It'd probably be quicker to say what formation didn't we play. I think that's the point, isn't it? It was a beautiful display of footballing fluidity. We had centre backs who at one point were playing at wing backs. We had wing backs who were playing as strikers. We were transitioning. If we were attacking, we were attacking as a team. If we were defending, we were defending as a team. If there was a gap to be filled, and I know what James is going to say next, someone was there to fill it. Absolutely. So I think that. We started with a 3-4-3, and how we finished. God knows how we finished, but it was good watching.
Okay. Yes, it was. It's interesting to see all the different ways the teams have been drilled in changing their formation and immediately going from one to the other and making it work perfectly. Kris, if anything happens in the chat, do let me know. Next question is going to be for James from Mr. DJ, the @ExpatGooner on Twitter. What do the hosts and guests think of the report that majority shareholder Enos Kroenke, never heard of him, actually financed the purchase of Thomas Partey? Do you foresee a warmth in the attitude of supporters to him, knowing he has, in brackets reportedly, finally opened his wallet for purchase?
I suppose you got to give an answer that's hypothetical, because like you, I hadn't heard of him. I hadn't heard of this. So let's just say, for the sake of the my answer, that he did do it. Who is Enos Kroenke anyway?
I think maybe they're taking a piss.
Yeah.
Okay,
I hope so.
let's just assume that I'll answer the question. Do I think it'll? No. They could come onto the centre of the amps, shit out a gold bar for everyone, and someone would still have something to moan about, wouldn't it? Because it's Arsenal Twitter. Yeah, it's Arsenal Twitter, and if they don't have an avenue in which to challenge the burning fires within, then they'll just find something else.
There are even people moaning about Sokratis not giving up his number 5 when Partey signed. That's the level we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't much that the I want to say dregs of Arsenal Twitter, because in my experience, the majority of Arsenal Twitter are all good people. There's just sort of like insidious scumbags underneath that layer. We just make it. They're the ones that get all the attention. They'll be the ones that are getting annoyed about what I've just said.
I'm not sure the reception's particularly good in Spain, Wi-Fi wise, so I wouldn't worry about it.
It's like that guy who I remember once saying years ago that there's a certain element of Arsenal fans, and there's a small minority of people who have never liked Arsene Wenger, and they were always opposed to him because he was French. That's it. They just had a deep distrust of foreigners, and they were always looking for a reason to dig him out. And one guy read that or believed that was me saying is that anyone who wants Wenger out is a racist, and so I'm not a racist. So he sat up on, I think it was New Year's Eve 2013, and spent the entire night tweeting every 3 or 4 minutes, not even atting me, just on his own timeline. Daniel Cowan is a see you next Tuesday. It was about 150 tweets at the end of the night, and I was like, "Have you not got better ways to spend?" You must remember that, James.
No, I'll just go back to relay the story of my favourite abuse that I've ever got online.
Yeah,
it was. I remember I wrote a blog post, and it was sort of meandering, so I started it with what I'd had for breakfast. And I remember that I'd written I had a cup of tea and some
I remember this
Alpen porridge. And somebody actually wrote in the comments, "Alpen don't make porridge, you stupid cunt."
And that's a quote, so you're allowed to use the C word.
Yeah.
And then you sent him a picture of the box of cereal. There's Alpen porridge. And he went ballistic, and then just kept going on and on. But yeah, what James said about Kroenke, shitting out gold bars. I was going to say, he could swim across the channel and bring Roar back, under his arm like a baby seal or something, and just bring him to the Emirates and present him sort of a symbol of Pride Rock. Just hold him out in front of the stadium, look at this gift for you, and everyone would still tell him to piss off. I think that no amount of good work.
Someone would be like, "Well, you're still paying messages or £350,000 a week."
I think that there comes a certain point where individuals cross lines, and no matter what they do, they can't ever come back from that. And I think that the Kroenkes and their ownership of the club, they crossed that line many, many years ago when people felt that they weren't putting into the club, they're only taking out of the club. So it doesn't matter what they do now, people are always going to remember that. I don't think that they can ever, and probably rightly so. I mean, they treated us like a cash cow for a while, and used us to leverage lots of their other purchases of other sports teams and things to grow their empire. So, but to be fair, who really gives a shit what the owner's doing as long as we're doing it on the pitch?
On the pitch, exactly. Nobody's going to care if we're winning things. And a sidebar to that, if you were one of those Muppets tweeting either Edu or his family abuse, shame on you. Because I thought that post that Edu did on Instagram was really classy, where it was just, I think it was just a gentle thank you to his staff behind the scenes, but also a gentle dig back to say, just so you know, fuckwits, we're working hard all the time and we're trying our best. I thought that was class. So yeah, if you were one of those people, naff off. Danny, how many questions have we got left? Just in the interest, I want to try and wrap this up in 2 hours. So 4. Go on then, quick fire.
You hurry up. Next question from GGMore67 on Twitch.
Yes.
Did we really go for... Oh, good God, this is worked out perfectly. Did we really go for Awar initially, knowing we could fall back on the release clause as the fallback position?
No. Go for Awar as in go for Awar as a smokescreen to get Partey?
Yeah, where are we going? Awar, hey you,
no.
Partey, get ready, Awar.
I'll try really, really quickly.
No, I'm so unconfident in this. I'm going to have a drink.
All right, have a drink.
We've missed the chance to do the hashtag. It's Party Hour.
It's Party Hour. That would have been something special. Right, so
it's our party, and we'll cry if we want to.
Christ,
yeah.
The short answer was we wanted both, and we
stick with that. Then, thank you very much.
No, there's more to it.
Oh God.
We wanted both. Arteta wanted both. They were the 2 players that he identified. The information I was going to say to you earlier on, this whole situation with Lyon, Jean-Michel Aulas is very well known to be quite a stringent negotiator, and to a certain degree, fair play to him. He looks after Lyon's interests. It's his club, and he's very active on social media. You know, how he conducts himself, not really for me, but fair play. He looks after his club's own interests. This statement that Houssem Aouar came out with when he said, I'm a Lyonnais, I want to stay with this club for another season, I'm happy here. That part's true, in fairness. But him coming out saying that he made the decision to stay, just so you're all aware, is bollocks. That is not what happened. What actually happened was that he had made up his mind that he wanted to leave. He was essentially accepting of the fact he was going to leave. He was happy to come to Arsenal, as was Memphis Depay to go to Barcelona. The difference between the two is that Depay's a bit of a, well, I mean, we know he's got a bit of an ego, and he's not a Lyonnais. So he was kind of like, he's not one of their own. So he was a little bit more, I want to go, and he wanted to push the move through. Whereas Aouar essentially said, look, I'd like the opportunity. It is a big club. I'd like the chance to move. But if it doesn't happen, I'll quite happily stay. That was the story. So this idea that people are coming out with saying that, we didn't want to push through for the deal and we got priced out, and all, it's not the truth. Lyon wanted what they asked for, and we thought we could get the deal done a little bit less. And I'm led to believe we went as high as 46 million. I don't know if that's 100%, but people I trust have told me that's the case, and I don't have any reason to disbelieve them. Lyon wanted 50, and to a degree, fair play. They stuck by their guns, and for the sake of 4 million, should we have pushed the boat out? Probably. But knowing Aulas, he probably would have then moved it up to 56 million if we'd have offered 50. So the only downside is he will probably end up going somewhere like Juventus or Man City next summer, when hopefully the world is not falling apart, which is the sad thing. But yeah, this idea that he chose to stay at Lyon over Arsenal is bollocks. There you go.
Is that a yes or a no?
That's a maybe.
Thank you very much. I like it when you're concise. Right. The penultimate question will go to James. It's going to be Jimmy H29 on YouTubings. So Edu posted a picture on his social media of people getting the deal done. So who was in Spain with the briefcase at the Spanish FA, as you have to personally give them the money? What's
the answer is Dick Law.
Shut up! Don't ruin it, James. Have you any idea?
Yeah, it was a selection of people from Arsenal's lesser known backroom staff. I think the main 3 people that were there were Nan Slack, Giuseppe Race, and Heathcote Pursuit.
Iqbal Achieve was there too.
Iqbal Achieve, Basil Watchfair, Charles Bonus, Kenton Schweppes was also there in attendance as well.
He's a big
Sadly,
player.
Brian Sibling had passed away.
And the whole ring was led by Ray fucking Purchase.
Was Rich T consulted, or was he not even? I don't think he was even consulted in the end, was he?
Clint Ovaries was as well.
Yeah. Well, that would explain why Rich T was not part of the negotiations then.
Well, there you go. That was breaking news. Not 100% reliable, but it was breaking news.
No, it's 100%.
Oh, 100%.
Look out for a blog tomorrow from somebody looking to get a claim, quoting all those names, saying these were the people that did the deal.
I'll run through the names again for that person. It was Nan Slack, Basil Watchfair, Heathcote Pursuit, Kenton Schweppes, Charles Bonus, Iqbal Achieve, and the ringleader was Ray fucking Purchase.
You heard it here.
You forgot Cliff Bonanza.
And Cliff Bonanza. My apologies.
The legend.
Cliff Bonanza.
Cliff Bonanza drove them.
And Pookie Hook.
Pookie
Hook was the one at the was the one at the back, second to the left.
Yeah.
No
next
relation
to
to
Jenny
Timo.
Spasm.
We've been going 2 hours. Right, gentlemen, think of who your gentleman's nod is going to go to, somebody that you like, because we will be up to that point in about hopefully 12 seconds. Final question to Daniel from Phil Macker on the YouTubings again. With Tierney self-isolating, I can't understand why we are playing internationals at all. Do you agree? Answer the question. We should get used to that.
I'm not a big fan of international football at the best of times. So I always thought that having an international break about 2 weeks into the season is bloody stupid. So no, I'm not happy. I'm really not happy about it, and I'm really not happy that potentially we're going to lose Tierney for another match. So no, I do agree.
Oh. Thank you. Right, because I've got the list, and the list is too long for Kris to read out. I want to say thank you to our YouTube members: Nick Wilson, J. Rob, Bill Butler, Yemi Fash, Corey, Michael Harniman, and Mike Hertz. We are probably going to try and. Hopefully, we might. If we get enough of them, we might try and do something special for them, Kris. Something special.
Yeah, we
other than the website.
You need to stop telling people to.
I haven't told them, have I? I've been told off. Don't you say you're getting robbed of getting
all the money.
Told me.
I want all the monies. All of you freeloading scumbags, pay me the monies.
Yeah,
don't
that's
listen
what I used to say, and now I don't because I've been told.
This look doesn't pay for itself, okay?
It doesn't.
Like
right.
It does, but,
so, Kris, over to you.
Right, Danny. I shall now go for gentlemen's nods. This is a time in the show where you can nod away at people that you like or people you want to give a mention. I'll go first because I've already got 2 mentions in mind. The first one is a joint mention for former Arsenal players, Lord Jack of Wiltshire and Sir Danny of Welbeck. Just very simple. I hope you both find clubs and I hope you both have fantastic careers still ahead of you. 2 absolute G's, basically. Quality Arsenal players in their time. Obviously, Jack, we all know how good a player he could have been. Hasn't been treated brilliantly at West Ham, which was a club he supported as a boy, if I'm not mistaken. And Danny Welbeck, anyone you talk to said just a lovely bloke and an immensely talented footballer when fit. So I really hope both of them find clubs. And I hope they come back to train with us if they haven't got somewhere to train. I know Jack's been offered by Hitchin, but I'd love to see him come back and train with us if we've got the space. And my other shout out is just personal to me, really. Fuck cancer. It took Eddie Van Halen yesterday, and that's another sad loss to an already depleted music industry, which has lost many incredible talents. Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell, 2 of my favourites in the past few years, have also been taken, sadly, due to varying different issues. I think losing Van Halen is another really sad loss to the music industry. So sad times. So might as well jump. James, who have you got?
I'm not going to name anyone specifically. I'm going to keep it short and sweet and say my gentleman's nod is to everyone that's been in contact with Daniel and I and you guys in the last 2 or 3 days, saying stuff how they missed the podcast, how it'd be nice to have us back, how they always enjoyed it, and anyone who said anything complimentary.
That's far too nice. Far too nice for this podcast. But no, pleasure to have you.
Well, it's a gentleman's nod. If you told me who would I want to go fuck themselves, I'd have a list just as long.
We've been here for another 2 hours.
Yeah. Who have you got?
And that's just the people from this week.
I feel like I've set that one up badly. Who have you got for us, Daniel?
Well, I have to echo everything that James just said. I've also had a lot of very personal well wishes, whereas we've both taken a hiatus from podcasting. I took a complete hiatus from Arsenal Twitter for the best part of 3 years. So to kind of get back into it and to see that I've still got a ridiculous amount of people asking after me and wishing me well and stuff has been wonderful. But I mean, I have to give my gentleman's nod to people you'll all know, and you'll also remember from our old podcast days. One of them's here, James, who I'm going to get all soppy and say, not only is he one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, but he's also my best friend, and I'm very, very proud to say that.
Seconded here, man.
Jock, Jock, Sim, and Mike. Without those guys, we wouldn't be doing this podcast tonight because I wouldn't be alive. They really got me through some really tough times, and they were there for me when no one else was. So my gentleman's nod goes to real gentlemen.
Amen to that. Well said. And finally, Danny, you've kind of done the list of people, but is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to make mention of? Any stuff we're doing? Anything, really?
Hopefully on Sunday we're going to do a show with the Sophie Amanda and Kevin Campbell from the Highbury squad. If we don't do it Sunday, then maybe hopefully in the international break. I would like ABW to get together and do a fantasy football show, because after these pods we always end up talking for ages, and we talked for 2 hours a few weeks before that, talking about our fantasy football and going into all that. So maybe we could do another pod like that. Football's going to get shut down before the end of the season, so we need to come up with some more stuff we're going to do. Me and Kris might be doing some Twitch only, just me and him talking about stuff, which we've done before on Twitch when we're doing gaming and stuff. So it's not like we're moving anything from here to Twitch. It's just doing what we did on Twitch before that no one ever come to watch. We played games and stuff on there. Should say our new member, the Believing Gooner, apparently he said his dad died from cancer. So that's sad news.
Condolences, man.
Yeah, actually, I will just plug one other very quick thing, and I promise this will be quick. If you do watch Twitch, if you are a Twitch person and you follow, I mean, I know a lot of people in here are football fans and often play FIFA, and we all love and hate the game in equal measure, I'm sure. One of the content creators that I follow, he's based in Canada. He's known as Nick 28T. He does a 40-hour charity stream every year for cancer research.
He stays awake for all of it.
Yeah, he does. He is actually going to do some sleeping on stream this year, he said, because he's getting older, bless him. But he does a 40-hour charity stream. It's going to be, I think, from memory, it's on the day that FIFA's released this year, which I'm sure is the 9th. I'm going to double check this. But yeah, basically he does a charity stream. People can donate via bits and, Twitch sort of currency and whatever, but all of the proceeds goes to cancer research in Canada and obviously across the world, and it helps to raise awareness. And he's got t-shirts with like "fuck cancer" on them, etc. and so on. But yeah, the charity stream is on October the 9th, so 2 days time. It's live on Twitch. It's Nick 28T. And yeah, just give him some support, and you don't have to subscribe. Just nip in and watch a grown man lose his shit at pixels on a screen, as he would say. It's good entertainment, it's good fun, and it's for a really worthy cause. And I think they raised, I think it's like 40 or 50 grand, like in a couple of hours last year. It's amazing. A lot of content creators do it, but he's one that I follow. So just a little plug, and God bless to the chap who mentioned about that. Yeah.
My actual nod goes to our Ellis. Apart from using Spurs players in his fantasy team, Ellis is frontline in HS, A&E. He does a lot of stuff, and so does his wonderful missus, who's far too good looking for him. And they've got 2 lovely girls.
So
Ellis has got to be dealing with all this shit, and he went through it last time, and it was an absolute nightmare. And things is going to get worse and worse, and then hopefully we'll come through it the other side. But yeah, poor old Ellis and everyone else who works for the NHS and the frontline stuff. So, Kris, as we're wrapping up, Daniel and James, can I play in the background a video of my favourite ever video that you two of the wedding and the song? Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, you can do that.
Excellent. Right, Kris, while you go and close the show, this is going to play for about 45 seconds, I think. It's got to go here, then I'm going to go here. There you go, Kris, you can close the show now.
Okay. Well, that was a Bergkamp Wonderland. Thank you, of course, to the Gooners boys. Really genuinely good to catch up with Daniel and James again. So thank you both for joining us tonight. And here's to many more with you again in the future. And, of course, thank you to Danny as well. But you have to be here. So until the next podcast, hopefully on Sunday, keep it Arsenal. Danny, Shut this shit off.
Sa!